Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the bassist from Lipstick.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer from Lipstick.
And today, we're talking about Smashing Pumpkins, as evidenced by the fact that I'm introducing it. With us, we have Kienan, whose last name I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce. There's lots of Y's and W's and things in it.
Way to bomb the intro already, Steve.
You know it. He's from the band Sarah and the Safe Word. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, hey, it's Dietrich. It's a lot easier, no Y's.
Dietrich, yeah, well, okay. Why was I thinking like Wheatrick or something? It's probably because I don't have your name right in front of me, and I'm terrible at remembering names and faces.
It's good. I've also got two middle names, and full name is Kienan Wynn Robert Dietrich, so it's excessive. I don't blame you for not bothering.
It's the Wynn that was throwing me off. I just ignored everything between W-Y and Rick.
I'm now remembering why we don't have you do stage banter.
Right. You demanded this, Greg. You demanded this.
I demanded it because I was feeling lazy, and I've learned my lesson. Never again.
Never again.
Until the next time I'm feeling lazy.
Yep. But we're going a little bit out of band. We're instead of doing just the regular studio albums of the Smashing Pumpkins, today we're doing Pisces Iscariot, their, rarities and B-sides collection that they put out after 2 albums.
The first one, the first of many.
Right, the first rarities and B-sides. I mean, the first of 2 for this album alone, plus the special edition of those first 2 albums, which added about another 60 tracks.
Well, this is sort of a between Gish and Siamese Dream, but we can get into that later.
Right. Yeah, typically what we do with our episodes, we go around the panel and each of us talk about our experience with the band or the album at hand. I'll go ahead and go first since I'm the one with the least amount of experience with the Pumpkins. I really grew up hating the music of the 90s and just assumed all music was bad because, I heard Pearl Jam and Korn and, boy bands on the radio. I'm like, oh, this is all music that exists. Well, I guess music is just a terrible thing. I don't like music. And, then I discovered that there were bands outside of alt-rock and boy bands. It's like, oh, wow, there's good music out there. Turns out just the 90s radio was terrible. And Smashing Pumpkins fell into the category of 90s radio where I hated Bullet with Butterfly Wings and generally did not care for the band. But Steve loaned me Melancholy a couple years back. I'm like, check this out. You'll like it. And he was right, and I liked it. And so we're going through the entire Smashing Pumpkins discography for the podcast. I hated Gish with a burning, raging passion. And I loved Siamese Dream with all of the passion that I hated Gish with. I'm like, wow, Gish, 1 star out of 5. Siamese Dream, 5 stars out of 5. And then Steve said, well, get ready to hate Pisces. And I'm going to be honest, this was way better than Gish. I know that's going to upset some Pumpkins fans, but I dug it. I think the album cover is garbage. It falls into very pretentious alt-rockisms, like, you can't even tell what this blurry, shitty photo is, but it's so artsy. And the fact that it has a title, it doesn't, it seems like they're trying to pretend it's a full album rather than just a collection of B-sides, the way the packaging is and the marketing. It looks like this is just the next artsy release from the Pumpkins, when it's a compilation album that isn't advertised as a compilation album, so very fascinating in that respect. But aside from the dumb, pretentious marketing of this awful album cover, there's a lot of good tunes in this. I would say overall it was a better listen than Gish, so I enjoyed it. Been in my car for a couple weeks now, and I dug it. Steve, do you want to go next?
Sure. I picked this album up because I tend to be a completionist about my favorite things, and so I found a copy of this fairly cheap years after I'd started listening to the Smashing Pumpkins, and I picked it up, and I listened to a couple of songs and said, hey, this is pretty good, and then it gradually fell out of rotation, became probably about the least listened to of all of the original lineup Pumpkins albums for me.
But dude, you own Gish.
Yeah. As I said, that's like the album I'm third most likely to listen to.
It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong about the Smashing Pumpkins, Steve. Let me tell you a few things about the Pumpkins, because I understand this band, unlike you.
Is what I've been getting from this guy for months now.
Yeah.
How about you, Keenan? What's your history with the Pumpkins and Pisces specifically?
All right. Well, the thing is with Smashing Pumpkins, I am a Pumpkins head. I have a tattoo of them on my left, of the logo that came up around Siamese Dream on my. No, actually, it's a Machina logo on my left shoulder. I used to have a Zero shirt. When I was a kid, I was really heavily into them. I knew Billy Corgan was an asshole, but he was my kind of asshole, so he was perfect. And I've just, obviously I fell out of favor with him over the dark years where things got a little murky when he quit the band, or broke up the band and then brought them back together in a really shitty way. But they were a huge influence on me earlier, just because it was like, wow, this guy can't sing at all, and it doesn't fucking matter. But it was like a lot of my early favorites have controversial vocals, like Our Lady Peace. I was really into Disturbed. It was all stuff where like 90% of the people that listened to it would be like, this guy can't fucking sing. But there was this few people where it really clicked. And unfortunately, I have to say Billy Corgan's voice never quite clicked for me. It was always just an example of like, hey, I can sing this better than this dude. These songs are great. And moving on to that, I have a weird relationship with Pisces Iscariot because the first Pumpkins album I ever listened to, I'd heard a bunch of songs, obviously. The first one I ever listened to was my stepbrother's copy of Melancholy. And so I went through that, and that was a big deal. And so you'd think a natural place to go from that would be Siamese Dream. But actually, the very next thing was Pisces Iscariot, because I just happened to come across like a ripped version of it online somewhere. And so it was just like in a bunch of MP3 files on my computer. So it was actually the second Smashing Pumpkins album I ever listened to. And it was, in fact, the first one that was technically mine.
Yeah.
I was not aware it was a B-sides compilation when I first started listening, so I was judging it on like full merits. And so it was like, this is kind of weak. Oh, wow, that recording's kind of bad. That's kind of weird. Why would they do that? What the fuck is a Sandoz? It was just... So I just had this, but at the same time, it's also because it's a B-sides compilation, because there's less, typically less label influence on those kinds of songs, because of the songs that don't get picked up for the release. They don't go through the kind of selection process, the kind of editing process. It was a weirdly eye-opening entry into who the Smashing Pumpkins actually are as artists, because you get to hear everything they do in a way that wouldn't make sense for a normal record. It opens up with, Billy Corgan being all soft and whiny and like a demo he made in his fucking bedroom. Mm-hmm. And then you've got like the full-on fuzz machine and the super fuzz big muff bullshit. It was all big muffs. They never used super fuzzes. But then on the other end, you've got like, Starla, their huge 11-minute long delay spacey epics where James is actually playing guitar for once, and Pissant, which are their weird little punky stuff. So it was like after Melancholy, going backwards from Melancholy to Pisces Iscariot makes a little bit of sense, because Melancholy was the first time it was a major release that showcased like everything they could do. Then going back and listening to Pisces is kind of like, well, this was a little bit of a preview,
This is the demo of everything we can do.
Yeah, exactly. So I always had a soft spot for the record. I get that it's technically weaker, and the fact that I listened to it before I ever listened to Siamese Dream was kind of a weird thing. But I think it's a great record. I don't know why it wasn't marketed as a B-sides compilation. Probably something to do with early 90s, them coming from like an indie label perspective where like a release is a release, period.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever saw their B-sides material as inferior. As you guys will cover Airplane Flies High eventually, but it's the exact same thing, that perspective Billy had for that record. It's like those songs, a lot of those songs I consider superior to what ended up being on official records. So I don't think they ever treated them like B-sides compilations because they didn't think they were lesser than their normal releases.
Yeah, and I don't think anything here necessarily, like I've heard some complaints about the sound quality, but there was nothing that stood out to me as particularly bad or demo-y sound. I know that Soothe is a demo, but for me, I feel that's just a simplistic recording. Like, okay, it's just vocals and guitar, but there are plenty of pro recordings that are just vocals and guitar. So I consider it more an artistic choice than like, oh, this is just a demo. So for me, I understand it's a demo, but it doesn't sound to me like a incomplete work. It sounds like, hey, they just wrote a short acoustic song. If this was a track on Gish, it'd be one of the best songs on Gish. Or if it was on Siamese, it wouldn't throw me off like, what? This song isn't overproduced. Like, no, I think if you look at the material, everything seems produced appropriately, at least as far as I can tell.
For Gish, it's not a very high bar to be better than those songs. But the other thing is with, especially with like songs like Hello Kitty Cat or Frail and Bedazzled, they're clearly like they should have been the whole like Butch Vig wall of fucking sound, 5 billion fuzz guitars going on, the kind of thing that they eventually perfected with Blood on Melancholy. But you can hear how those songs, in comparison to Siamese Dream, are underproduced, which wasn't really the Pumpkins thing at the time. They were like one of the few bands that, like, in the era of grunge and just like one shitty microphone, they were the band that was like, no, we want to be Chicago. So compared to that, Frail and Bedazzled sounds a little emptier, just because it sounds like it really is missing, and which it literally is missing those extra tracks of like fuzz guitar.
Which I don't think
38 guitar tracks light.
You know, I don't think it necessarily needs that, because one of the things we've been going through also all the Kiss albums, and if you go from Destroyer to Rock and Roll Over, that one isn't nearly as huge and bombastic, but it doesn't need to be for the material. It's still fine, and it still sounds good and sounds like the band. So that's kind of how I look at this, is it does have the bombast of the records around it? No, but I don't think it necessarily needs it. It still sounds good, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
So you ready to get into this ranking?
Ooh, is that how the rest of the podcast goes? It's all about the ranks?
We go about the ranks, and then we discuss the ranks as they come up. So
cool, okay. I don't have my ranking in front of me. Do y'all have my copy?
We do, but we're just going off the group ranking.
Yeah, we average it out, basically.
So basically, 14 songs on this album. So whatever was your best song on the album got 14 points, and your worst song on the album got 1 point. And then we add up the points that everyone distributed, and we figure out which one is the best, according to math, and which one is the least best, according to math. Because, try to be positive.
Keeping it positive, yeah.
Keeping it positive. That. So the least best song on Pisces Iscariot, which Steve, for some reason, mispronounces every time we talk about this album.
What, Pisces Iscariot or
yeah, you always say like Pieces of Iscariot.
I always say Pieces Iscariot. Yeah.
And I'm like, you're the one who's the fan of this band. Like I'm supposed to be the one who's like slowly converted and learning about their catalog, and I'm correcting you on stuff.
Yeah, but I've just always zoned out as soon as Billy starts getting into his astrology and tarot shenanigans. It's like, okay, Billy's like writing songs about tarot cards again. Cool.
Boy, Machina is going to be real fun for you, I guess.
I mean, I love Machina. It's a great album.
Anyway, so the first song on our ranking, the 14th best song on this album is Spaced.
We all agreed that was some bullshit, right?
Well, Greg doesn't. Greg only put that as his second worst.
Yes. There's a song I think is much worse than Spaced on this record.
Okay.
The thing with Spaced, and I'm going to give it some credit, is I remember what it sounds like. And that is something more than I can say about 90% of Gish. Is that I remember what this song sounds like. And, this is a song that would, I think, work really well as part of like a concept album or as a short vignette on another album. It's awkward on a B-sides compilation and doesn't make any sense in that context. But I'm going to be honest, I had fun listening to it. And so for that, I'm not going to rank it as the last place song.
I don't know what to tell you, because I know it was my last. Yep. It's just because it's not a fucking song, and I listened to the Pasticcio medley on The Aeroplane Flies High more than I've ever listened to Space. And that's literally a bunch of clips of demos that weren't long enough to be real songs. I've listened to that more often for the fun of it than Billy's ambient adventure. Like, who gives a fucking shit?
Oh, geez.
You want to talk about the cover being the height of 90s pretension? To me, putting a track like Spaced and giving it a name is height of 90s pretension.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. It's still 90s pretentious, but at least At least this has the outer space gimmick. I think it's my soft spot for glam rock, where it's like, it's all about going to the moon. Isn't that cool, guys?
They already did that on Starla, though. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I get
Rocket,
it. It's the B-sides. They weren't intended to be on the same thing, but
well, I guess,
God damn it.
I guess if you put all those songs together, like that plus Space Boy and Rocket, and just made like a weird little outer space concept album,
Oregon's Apollo program.
Yeah, so it's fun in that context, and I could honestly see myself seeking this out again to listen to, and so for that, I have to not rank it as the worst, song on the album. I still enjoyed it.
Hey, that's fine. I mean, as long as it's still near the bottom for me,
it's still near the bottom. But it's not, for me, it's not the absolute worst song on this album, which we'll get to later on the list.
So,
really? The one you thought was the worst isn't right after this?
No.
No, it's both of us liked it way more than he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I'd never bothered to listen to this particular song critically. This was one that just, when I heard it as a kid, I was like, okay, whatever, this is all shenanigans, and I don't really buy any of whatever he thinks he's talking about. And that thing about the 7 Secrets of Apollo that it says in the liner notes, like, he's just making stuff up. And so I listened to it critically while doing this ranking, just in case something stuck out to make it not the worst song on the album to me. I realized that, like, the ambient backing track of this isn't that bad. So if you removed the vocals and had this as a 90-second interlude in a real album, it would be fine.
Yeah, when I would listen to it, the main way I listened to it, like I said, it wasn't on a recording. It wasn't on like a CD or an LP. It was on computer. Yeah. So a lot of times I would forget that I had shuffle on, and I would listen to it out of order. I always, for a while, I thought Spaced was like the end of Starla. I thought like Starla ended, and then it segued into this cool little ambient outro to add an extra couple minutes to set up an ending. And in that context, I always thought it was cool. But then when I realized it was like, no, it was at the end of the album separated by a few songs, that's when it hit me. I was like, this is terrible. This is a bad idea. This is a failure of an idea attacked onto the end. This is like when Paul McCartney put the Her Majesty after the end on Abbey Road.
No, Her Majesty is great. I will fight you. There is only one bad Beatles track, sir, and that is Revolution Number 9. Everything else is an A+.
Oh, you are incorrect, sir. Glass Onion, we will fight over
Glass Onion is great. What is
Glass
wrong?
Onion is crap. It is crap. It is John Lennon on heroin crap.
No, Glass Onion is great because you know what? It is catchy.
It's John Lennon on heroin genius, it turns out.
There are 2 categories of John Lennon on heroin. There are, 3 categories. Good and bad, and songs that he never finished because of said heroin. And I really wish Glass Onion had been in that 3rd category.
Glass Onion is great. Glass Onion is better than anything on Gish.
Again, low bar here. Low bar. Obla Di Obla Da is better than anything on Gish.
Well, that's because that's an amazing song. It's one of the best songs ever written by humans.
Life goes on, bruh.
Yeah.
Life goes on, brah. La la la.
No, I will defend every Beatles song except Revolution Number 9, which is a giant pile of shit. But everything else, I will defend.
No disagreement there. I'm just saying. It's a bigger category. Okay, so back to Smashing Pumpkins. Though.
Back to Smashing Pumpkins. I think, I'm going to repeat what Steve said. The backing track on Space sounds good. And I think the only reason Space maybe ranks so low is because of what album it's on. I feel if this was on a different album, sequenced differently, it might not have as harsh of a viewpoint from the two of you. So if this was at the end of Starla or was the very next track, you wouldn't rank it as low.
I wouldn't. It would make sense, especially if it was mastered so that Starla segued into it a little.
If we just swapped the vocals from this one with the vocals from that tape interlude on Glass and the Ghost Children, how would they change?
But that one was conceptual.
Yeah,
like this one. Well, this one is just. I mean, the fact that it isn't attached to Starla. Like, if it was, it would feel like a concept. But the fact that they're not means that he didn't think they should be, which means that it wasn't conceptual.
I think it can be a conceptual track. Not everything conceptual needs to be an entire album or 12-minute piece. You can have something conceptual be like 2 minutes long. Maybe he was, dabbling with the idea of doing a concept album, didn't finish it, but still had this conceptual piece as part of it. So I'm going to give it a pass. I like the ideas there, and it's fun. It's less pretentious than I thought it would be. I'm going to give it a pass.
All right, that's good. That's fine. All right.
Man, it is so weird that I'm the one defending the Pumpkins on these episodes. The idea behind this was Steve was like, Greg's making me listen to Kiss. I'm going to make him listen to a band he won't like so I can get back at him. And then, I'm defending the artistic merits of the band.
You're defending the wrong stuff, though. You're defending the stuff that we've already written off as like, oh, that was bad. But it's because we know. It's because we know there are better things ahead.
It would be like
I know Melancholy is after this. I know that's the best is literally ahead.
It would be like if in the Kiss episodes I was defending all of the Gene lyrics about butts. Be like, man, Gene Simmons is just really a lyrical genius with all of those clever euphemisms about butt sex he has.
Yeah, I don't even defend those.
Stop at 10, man. He saw more. He was a visionary. He saw many more puns to come.
So next up on the list, the 13th best song on the album, La Dolly Vita.
Oh, that one. Wow. That one, yeah.
So I give this one a little bit of points because I actually heard the title in the lyrics of the song, which is a refreshing change of pace for Billy Corgan.
Don't say it. We'll get out the swear jar, Greg. I mean, the chair jar.
We don't have the drops yet, Steve.
It's true.
Oh, no.
But, one thing I'll say about, this album, the charm of this album definitely feels... This feels very authentic, this entire record. Maybe part of it is that picture of the band when you open up the CD and you see them all as like a bunch of teenagers in somebody's basement jamming. But I'm like, man... Yeah. Billy Corgan looks like high school me, and that's weird because we turned out pretty different. Like, he's way more successful, but I'm way less suicidal. So, you take what you can get, I guess.
He took more chances,
Yeah, he took, I don't know if he took more chances. I think he was just right place, right time, rather than took more chances. I think I took more chances than him, hence why I'm doing glam rock in 2018. You're talking about taking chances. That is that is the ultimate Hail Mary of music.
Pumpkins were doing glam rock in 1991, 1994. That was even worse. They got so much shit for the little bits that they put in there.
What was glam about the Pumpkins in 91? I missed this.
The fact that they were reliant on fuzz tones, it sort of crossed over from Black Sabbath to Mick Ronson. Specifically Bowie glam is what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah. No, they did do some Bowie glam, but I mean, whatever. Yeah. Hipsters love Bowie glam. They need to chill out.
Well, they do now.
Yeah, I don't think they cared for him in the early 90s.
Yeah, that was when Bowie was going through his real everyone hated him. He had done China Doll or China Girl.
That's when he started getting into video game soundtracks.
Thought collaborating with Trent Reznor was a good idea.
That was my first exposure to Bowie. Was that one video game that he did the soundtrack for.
I didn't know that Bowie did video game soundtracks.
Yeah, he wrote a bunch of original music for some kind of cyberpunk game, which was very on brand for Bowie, but was just weird and nobody liked it.
I could see that. But speaking of songs no one likes, La Dolly Vita.
Hey, segue.
I mean, it's ultimately pretty forgettable.
It's exactly the issue I had with it. The title pops up at me because it's one of Billy Corgan's silly titles, Cupid de Luck on Melancholy. So you just La Dolly Vita, and you see it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then you listen to the song, and you're just like, yes, this is definitely a song. Okay, cool.
Steve's notes that he emailed to me was this one is pretty forgettable.
Yep.
So, does anyone have anything to say about this song? Nope. Okay, moving on.
That's probably why we started talking about Bowie almost immediately.
So next up on the list, Blue.
Now, this song is interesting because again, this title is so fucking generic that when I dug this out, I was just like, did I even listen to this one?
Right.
And then I started playing it, and I was like, actually, I kind of dig this. And then it's a lot closer to the Gish style, which isn't great, but it's like you were talking about, like you'd rather listen to Space than anything on Gish. I would rather listen to this than almost anything on Gish, except maybe Shiva or I Am One. Like, this is a much better song. It's a little more exploratory, but it's just like, it's a more developed concept. I don't know. What do you think about it?
So I don't think it is. You know, I know when we were talking in the Facebook chat, you said, Blue, you mean I Am One Part 2, implying it's the same song. I actually think it's different enough where it's not the same song. My problem with Gish was that I Am One, Siva, and whatever those other rockers were all sounded exactly the same.
Very Interstessa.
Yeah, those are all just the same song. They are not different songs. And the first one was the best version of that song, and then there were just 3 weaker versions of the same track on the album, and it insulted me as a music fan. I got enraged listening to it, and like, wait, you just did the same thing 4 times and called it a different song? No, just because this one starts with a bass intro doesn't mean it's a different song. Shut up. But
Still the same fucking riff.
But this song, you know, it's different than those because the melody choices are a lot different than those 4 songs. There's a lot more pauses and drawn out sections than in any of those songs. I think it is good, but maybe not as good as I Am One. I think it's a fine song. I don't think there's anything really bad about it, but I just think there are stronger tracks on this album. Yeah. But it would have been nice if it was on Gish because it would have been refreshing compared to some of the other garbage that was on that record.
I think it wouldn't have stood out for you as much if it was on Gish because of the similarities to the other songs. It would have been more of that insult.
I thought about that. That was one of the things I debated with myself. Do I like this better because I had a record in between it to not be enraged about it? But the melody choices are significantly different than those other songs. Like, yes, it does have the same pulse at the beginning, but Billy's melodic choices are different enough where it stands out in comparison to those other songs. Maybe not enough. I think if it was like the 5th rocker on that album, yes, I would have probably hated it then. But if it was track 2, I'm like, okay, this band kind of has one style, but at least like there's a different melody on this one.
Well, this was one of their, like, they hadn't quite gotten into like the Sabbath riffage stuff yet. Like, they were exploring it, and that's part of what made Melancholy so much better than the Siamese Dream. But this is kind of like, this was the it's like the base recipe that they had was what they were forming, and this was just like another variation that wasn't enough of a variation. When you get into, have you listened to Aeroplane Flies High at all? Have you at least listened to it in preparation for the next one?
I've listened to it, but Greg hasn't.
No, okay, I'm going in order. So the only one I've listened to out of order is Melancholy. And, if you count Tinted Windows, the James E. Haas side project with Taylor Hanson, I own that record and think it's great.
Okay, no, I was going to say there's one on Airplane called God. And to me, it's like God is to Bullet with Butterfly Wings as Blue is to I Am One. It's very, like, Billy wrote, like, the purple version and then the violet version, and then just wanted to see, who could tell the difference or which one ended up winning the battle. They're just so similar. I mean, so that's what.
Given how much I dislike Bullet with Butterfly Wings, I'm probably going to like God more because it isn't that song. So, but we'll see. There's time. Only time will tell.
There's time to hate it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, hey, feel free to hate everything, but I guess there's a reason. The reason you hate Bullet with Butterfly Wings would matter. But yeah.
Bullet with Butterfly Wings, I think as an objective music listener, like as an adult, I don't have any reason to dislike that song because I think it is well crafted, well performed, and good lyrically. It's just I hated that song so much as a kid. Basically, I have 30 years, I'm not 30, but, almost 30 years of hating that track where it's just... I just don't like it. It just rubs me the wrong way. And, versus Siamese Dream, I was, singing very high praise on that album. So it's not that I hate the Pumpkins. It's I didn't like Gish, and I don't like that song. But Siamese, I I pretty much liked everything on that album except maybe Silverfuck.
Which, yeah, maybe you just don't like it when they rock out, when they try to get real aggressive.
No, it's just like Silverfuck just reminds me of really bad sex. And I'm just like, I don't want that in a song. I want my sex to be good, not like uncomfortable and weird.
Well, I mean, uncomfortable and weird produces memories. So,
Right? Look,
songs are all about evoking something, and if they evoke that, then hey, whatever.
I would just rather have great, awesome, hot, wild sex and like, oh no, this is uncomfortable, and then we got pissed off at each other and it wasn't very good. I don't need that in my songs. I'm good. All right, next up on the list. Do you have anything to say about Blue, Steve?
No,
not particularly. It always felt like it feels like kind of a filler song. Although I do like the bridge. That change up sort of distinguishes it from the similar sounding songs on Gish.
Yeah, the change up's good.
Yeah. The middle eight.
Yeah.
Good middle eight.
All right, next up on the list, Girl Named Sandoz, the first cover on our ranking. Or at least on the Pumpkins ranking.
Well, I was kind of, there was something in the Facebook chat where I just didn't even count the song because it's a cover. Like, and I mean, I get that there's things where like it's important for a band to show you how they put their spin on a song, and covers have value. It's just that I don't think they deserve the same kind of ranking because like they're not part of the record. I don't know. It's different. They didn't write this song. All I can judge it on is their interpretation. And if I don't like the original song, what am I just going to rank how well they did a song I don't like? It makes no sense.
Well, the way to look at it is, I would say there are a lot of bands where they will have a song on an album that they didn't write, but then that becomes the big hit off the record, and that band's version is the best known version. So, take for example, Cyndi Lauper, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" is a cover. So, are you not going to count that song on a Cyndi Lauper album because it's a cover song?
Yeah, because it defines who she is,
And so,
I get what you're saying.
And so that's why I'm saying, judge. The way I do my rankings typically is I rank how good the songwriting is, and then I put performance as a secondary thing, usually. Mm-hmm. And so this, because I think it's one of the better written songs on the album, I ranked upwards. I think I ranked this as I think I gave it 9 points out of a possible 14. So, I mean, I like the Animals. I like, 60s pop bands like the Beatles and the Stones and stuff like that. So this is more in my wheelhouse. And, this is, a pretty generic, like, girl, get on my dick song. Like, that's what this song is. And it's funny.
Like psychedelic get on my dick song.
Yeah, and it's really funny coming from the Pumpkins.
LSD.
Like, it's so...
Girl, inject acid into my dick.
It's not rape because it's the 60s. Come on, get with it, girl. Yeah.
But it's fascinating to hear, like, this kind of swagger from Billy Corgan, because that is not his style at all. But given that, I come from the era of hair metal and 60s pop, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I dig this. This is one of the songs on the album I like more. Their version is fine. It's, when I think of top 10 Smashing Pumpkins songs, even with my limited knowledge of the band, this isn't in that. But it was a nice change of pace. They did a good version, and the original song is good. So I ranked it based on the songwriting rather than the performance, but it was a good performance. I liked it.
I guess I just see that as, unfair because they didn't write the song. I mean, from the Smashing Pumpkins, the rating I'm giving them would matter more towards like why'd they choose this song or what kind of spin did they put on it. And
did they reinvent it meaningfully?
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't. This was obviously just something they did for fun. Like, of all the songs, excepting maybe Space, I forget where I put this one on, but it would have been pretty low. Excepting maybe Spaced, to me, this is the song that most screams, hey, B-side collection. See, it's a song. It's a cover song from the fucking Animals. This is how little we care about this record. And as far as you were saying, like, 60s and hair metal, like, I wish they had done a hair metal song. Like, I understand why they didn't. It was the early 90s. They were already, stretching stretching how cool they were by wearing their Black Sabbath influences on their sleeve. If they had done like a fucking Poison song, it would have been way worse. But to choose the
sugar on bread.
That's the wrong band, Steve.
I know, but that was just the hair metal song that I thought it would be fun to hear Billy sing.
But yeah, I'm thinking every rose has its thorn. But
no, he would try to do that believably though, and that would be weird and awkward.
Oh God, yeah. No, I mean he'd try to do it sincere, kind of as we'll get to later with Landslide.
Yeah.
No, I am not necessarily against Pumpkins covers. It's just when I hear this one, I just think like this sounds like y'all were just screwing around in the studio. They needed 14 tracks for some reason, and this got lost in the shuffle and just showed up on the album. It just sounds half-assed.
I don't think it sounds half-assed. I think they sound really good on this cut. I think the band sounds tight, and I think they're cooking on it. I don't hear half-assed at all.
I don't think the performance sounds half-assed. I mean, like, the concept of it being on the record sounds half-assed.
I think the Pumpkins probably had very little to do with this. I think, they didn't choose the track list. The record company just like, hey, we have all these B-sides. Let's sell it, and let's pretend it's an album so the 90s kids buy it. We'll put really shitty, pretentious cover on it, and we'll give it a name, Pisces Iscariot, and like, oh, shoot, everyone's going to wonder what that means. It's the new Pumpkins record. And, they were trying to trick all the 90s kids. Like, this is, like, deep and shit, guys. You don't know what this means.
I can't picture a record label, like, looking at these and saying, yeah, Pisces Iscariot, that's the name we want to foist on this thing.
That sounds great. Want to use a Pisces, right? That would make way more sense. So let's just do it. No, I mean, the only reason Soothe is on the album is because Billy fought to put it on there. So they definitely had at least some. And keep in mind, some of these had already been released. They were taken from singles,
right?
For the release, so they were already technically out there. Forget where. I think I'm looking at it online because I got to have facts to base up my stuff. Girl Named Sandoz was actually already released on an EP called the Peel Sessions they'd done with DJ John Peel before.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's my thing with it is going to be very hard for me to rag on a band covering a band that they like. So, we've done a bunch of Kiss albums, and there have been Kiss covers where the other Kiss fans on the panel are like, why would they cover this song? This song sounds nothing like Kiss. It doesn't have the balls that the band normally has. And I'm like, you know what? If Kiss wants to cover a 60s girl pop band because they sincerely love that band and they do a good version of it, yeah, it doesn't sound like a normal Kiss song, but how can you rag on another musician for just wearing their influences on their sleeve and having fun? And so that's where I come at with this. They sincerely like the band. They wanted to jam on the tune. They had fun with it. Is it, a Pumpkin song that's an all-time classic? No, but, they're a band having fun. Isn't that what music is all about?
Not when it comes to the Smashing Pumpkins, but you know what? I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, no,
I'm not going to argue with that.
Having fun isn't really their shtick. So I'm flipping through the Rap Genius annotations on this song, and the original was about LSD apparently, because that's
that's the factory where they made LSD.
Sandoz was the company that made it, and like that just makes it even more incongruous because of how many songs did they go on to write throughout the course of their career that are all about like drugs will ruin your life, kids.
Well, the early Pumpkins were considered psychedelic. Billy used to play that guitar that looked like it's straight out of the '60s with all the weird shit on it. Like you said, he was really into tarot stuff. They were kind of into the whole '60s revival because remember the '60s revival was a big thing in the '90s. It was like it kind of bled into a '70s revival, but it was all about the late '60s, the summer of love. That's where Woodstock '99 comes from. So that. I can see it from that angle. Like they were kind of like, we're the psychedelic grunge band. So they put out something like this. So they choose like an LSD focused song particularly. I mean, I agree with you. It's like the Pumpkins were never a, hey, do drugs and fuck kind of band. But, whatever.
This was the one that I ranked lowest of all the actual songs. I have never particularly liked this one. It has a lot of things that don't work for me. It's a generic kind of blues rock jam song, which is absolutely not what I'm into, and the entire song just doesn't sound like a Pumpkin song, and I'm not familiar at all with the original to care whether they did a good job of it or not.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hey, fair points.
Wow. Okay. So I'm looking up my my ranking, and so far we've pretty much matched, except for La Dolly Vita. We pretty much matched my ranking. Cool. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Next
Nice.
up on the list is Obscured.
Oh, really? Y'all had it that low?
I put this
Oh,
one
man.
pretty low.
Steve ranked it lower than I did because he hates America.
More bongos. That was sort of my take. Again, listening critically. For actually attempting to do that with this album, just they experiment with a lot of instruments and different tones, and of all of those, the one that really sticks out is like, this just sounds goofy and not like them, is bongos. Bongos are not a good Smashing Pumpkins instrument.
Thinking about this in my head now, listening to the song in my head as we're talking, I'm kind of regretting ranking it as low as I did. There's 2 songs I think I'd probably switch it with, but it's already here and I just went with gut reaction. But I don't dislike this song at all. I think it's really good. I like the different instrumentation. For me, I listen to the Beatles, so bongos and stuff, totally fine with me. Shoot, one of the best Kiss songs has bongos on it, so it's hard for me to rag on bongos. I think it's fine, and I think it has a good melody, good lyrics.
I really
good
like the
atmosphere.
lead guitar, the little phaser guitar that James, if it's James, is doing. I really like the atmosphere they went with us on this one. I guess I could say it maybe what kind of song it is, if it's a good song or a bad song, but I guess on the album, I really like that it shows like, yes, we're willing to go for this kind of style. And the bongos just contribute to like this relaxed acoustic kind of vibe that they don't often give you, or they don't often give you for a full song. Sometimes it'll be like little bits and pieces in a thing. So I don't know. I kind of dug it.
I think it's a refreshing change of pace. I think my problem with, Gish in particular was that so much of the album was very repetitive. This is nice because it's a complete change of pace, and it feels like a distinct piece. I like each song to be a distinct piece that I can sink my teeth into, and this song does that very well, where it gives a different vibe, and I don't mind it being more mellow because it has all these other positive attributes to it.
Definitely, and one of those positive attributes is always when Pumpkins go this kind of, or full band mellow, is when Billy holds back on his voice and uses the whispery thing he does. And he's doing the whisper thing almost throughout this entire song, so it's much more tolerable from a Billy's voice can be grating kind of way.
Much more
he's not doing
in tune and not great.
Yeah, he doesn't do the flip thing where he goes like, like he does on Stumbling or whatever. There's none of that. It's just obscured. So it's just very breathy the whole way through. It's consistent vocal take from Billy, which is not something not something you get used to. So I appreciate the song at the very least for that.
I will say this. There is one thing I will say musically that the Pumpkins influenced in a very negative way that I'm very annoyed with is singers who will sing every song in that whispery Billy Corgan kind of voice. That is one influence from this band I wish hadn't carried over into the next generation of musicians, because I've seen so many rock bands where the singer does that for every song, and it's like, what happened to just like singing? Like, yes, it works for the Pumpkins, but like, you don't need to do it too. Please don't.
You mean like Silver Sun Pickups in particular, if we're talking about like the most Pumpkins influenced, if you want to be kind, band?
I don't know them. I'm going purely on a local level, where I've just seen so many people do that. I'm like, just stop, please.
I love Silver Sun Pickups.
Use some breath support.
Yeah.
Sing from your gut. Use the diaphragm.
It's another texture. It should always be part of someone's vocal texture. And if that's the part they want to lean into the most, that's just who they are. I can't deny them that. I mean, there's a lot of, especially if you're not used to singing or you haven't taken a vocal lesson, you don't know much about breath support, singing in that breathy kind of way can increase your comfortable range, and so you can do more stuff than you could if you're stuck on some kind of like don't know the difference between head voice and chest voice thing. If you're doing the whisper thing, it lends you towards using your head voice and gives you more flexibility if you're a less trained singer. So I don't judge too many people for going to that kind of choice. That's all.
I'm a little bit more. I think a lot of people are doing it just because they don't have the balls to just go and belt it. That's where I'm at. I'm like, come on, just come on. Actually sing. Don't just whisper. If you're whispering because you're afraid someone's going to hear you, you're on stage. Fucking sing.
Well, it's also
I paid a $5 cover to watch you stand there and play your shitty, uncatchy songs. The least you can do is actually sing.
There's also a nice artistic contrast between the band going fucking nuts, which not on Obscured, obviously, but on a band going fucking nuts and the lead singer being like a little breathier about it. It's kind of cute. I appreciate the contrast because I'm sorry, we had lots of decades of people belting it and going for it. So if you want to go for something different and adding a contrast, I'm all for it.
I like melody. I like being able to hear the melody. So,
well, yeah, live, of course, that sort of thing doesn't work.
Right, and I see so many of these people doing it live, and it's bullshit. You know,
well,
look, search your feelings. You know it to be true.
I'm just saying, go look up some Silversun pickups, and you might be impressed by how well they use it. If you get some resonance,
hashtag not all. I'm not saying that every band that does it poorly, and I'm not saying that there's not artistic merit to it. I'm saying the vast majority, in my opinion, are just people who don't have the balls to just get up and actually sing.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I would rather someone who doesn't have the ability to sing not have the chutzpah to get up there and just belt it, because that sounds worse.
No, I want Gigi Allen. If you can't sing, cut yourself with a beer bottle, roll around in feces, and show off that small dick. Just go for it.
I'm good for people doing that in the lessons where they're learning how to sing, but I think life is too short to sit there and listen to someone who doesn't know how to fucking sing. That's all.
Wait, you're saying that?
But you're listening to Smashing Pumpkins.
Did you just say while you're like doing lessons to learn how to sing, you should whip out your tiny dick and cover yourself in poop?
I mean, I'm just saying, does not everyone do that at their vocal lessons? I mean, is that not part of everyone's process?
I mean, I got my vocal lessons at public school. They generally discouraged it.
Second, there, you were going to say you got them at Publix. I was like, all right, that's unique. But
yeah, so I got my vocal lessons at a Publix, so of course the dude teaching me had his dick out.
I just want my vocalist to just own it. Just like whatever their voice is, whatever their range is, just own it and be themselves. And I think a lot of the like whisper voice people are just too afraid to be themselves, and that's really annoying from an audience perspective.
Fair enough. I'm just going to say perhaps not the Smashing Pumpkins.
Hashtag not all. And I'm not going to say that that's the case with Billy. I think Billy is actually owning it. So I'm not saying it's with him. I'm saying I'm annoyed that people took the wrong lessons from the Smashing Pumpkins going forward. Like,
boy, there's a lot of categories that applies to. Let's be honest. That's not the only time that you're going to say that sentence.
But that was the point I wanted to make, was like, hey, this was the bad thing to take from these bands going forward. Like, there's a lot of good things you could have taken, but like, you took that part. That was the wrong part to take.
You could do an entire podcast series on the lessons from the 90s. What we should have learned and what we didn't learn.
Here's lessons from the 90s. Guys, you know how you got rid of the stupid misogyny of the 80s and all those hair metal bands? That was good. Remember how you also got rid of the hooks? That part wasn't so good. Keep the hooks and catchy songwriting, but, write better lyrics. There you go.
Also, P.S., the misogyny thing, you're not done yet. Keep going.
Still got some room on that.
Right.
Good start, but keep going.
Yeah, go a little bit further. But guys, we're so much deeper than all those 80s bands.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, just because you're not singing about it doesn't mean you're not still thinking it, and then it just means you're better at hiding it behind bad poetry. Like, that's just because you're Post Maloning it or Post Johnson doesn't mean it's not still there.
I feel like Hobo Johnson's not hiding it. That song was pretty blatant.
Well, he's hiding it behind his emotional distress, which is
like the thought of being with you in the friend zone.
Well, that's exactly what fucking Kurt. You got a lot of Nirvana songs that are basically about that. You got a lot of Alice in Chains songs that are about that. Maybe not necessarily. Eddie Vedder had a pretty good handle on it, but God, you go back and listen to some Alice in Chains songs, and you're like, it's bad when you're listening to a song and you're like, I hope he's singing about heroin and not a person, because otherwise this is really bad.
Well, to be fair, Alice in Chains was a hair metal band that just pivoted to grunge before they got big and realized that, they were going to fail as a hair metal band.
Yeah, in fairness, so did Pearl Jam.
Grunge band. Oh yeah, Pearl Jam, Mother Love Bone. I mean,
like,
that
so
guy
many of those
had-
grunge bands, like, we're so much more artistically pure than those hair metal bands, even though we totally sold out also.
Well,
man,
because that
whatever.
after grunge became a thing, yes, when grunge was not a fucking thing and it was just bands in Seattle not sucking and not being hair bands, then it was good. But when it became a thing and all the I'm trying to think of the word that's not carpetbaggers, but yeah, when all the carpetbaggers show up, I mean, yeah.
Whatever carpetbaggers for grunge are.
Well, so, my beef with grunge one of my big beefs with grunge, and, we'll get back on topic in a sec. But the grunge bands always were like, we're much, more pure artistically than all the hair metal bands. Like, those guys are corporate trash and, they're not real artists like us. And what I will say is those bands have the same level of artistic integrity.
Look, man, Fuel are really deep.
But all those hair bands that people rag on, all the hair bands that they rag on, they were, kids in their early 20s trying to make it, playing in bands, handing out flyers at clubs, hoping to meet that record label guy. There were a bunch of people hustling, trying to make it, and some of them did, and good for them. But to act like they're just like corporate manufactured produced bands, and then but Nirvana isn't, where it's like, come on, Nevermind is one of the most corporate bullshit, Pro Tools albums of all time.
I mean, Pro Tools literally didn't exist back then, but I mean, if we want to talk about a Nevermind thing where I'm on one side and you're on the other side, I'd love that. But see, there are examples of bands that, yes, they were corporate in a way, but not in the same way that Warrant was or Winger.
The dude from something corporate.
So here's the thing: is I know the dudes from Warrant, but here's the thing: I actually know the dudes from Warrant and Winger, and they are not corporate. Like they aren't. They were people who wrote their own songs and got record deals. Like that's
why. But they only got record deals because that was what was selling, and they needed a safer version of the stuff that was already selling. Here's the thing. When I say corporate, I almost never mean the people in the band. Like if some guy, some douchebag in a Cadillac and with smoking cigars or whatever wants to give me a bunch of fucking money because he sees that my band is doing what he can easily exploit, I would take it. I never hold it against the bands. But what I'm saying is, you've got bands that come after Nirvana that are carpetbagging the whole grunge thing, like Fuel, as you said, Creed, all these bands that are clearly biting off of it. The 80s had the exact same thing. You had people who were legit into it, Def Leppard, you had the people who were legit into it at the beginning, and then you had bands who were taken advantage of. You did have some corporate bloodsuckers, but a lot of them were just innocent guys who were following the trend at the time or being innovative in their own way, and then were taken advantage of. And the problem is, they're comparing the Nirvana is like a Def Leppard style band, or maybe even like an Iron Maiden style band, where they were very unique, very interesting. I mean, unique, quote unquote. In the market, they were unique. Obviously, they were not unique to anyone who would listen to the Melvins in the last 2 years preceding. But you're comparing that kind of a band to the end of an era type of band, like a Fuel or a Stone Temple Pilots. You're comparing like the innovators to the Dick Riders of another dying trend.
But I don't necessarily consider them to be dick riders. It's just like, hey, you're writing rock songs and you're continuing the evolution of your influences. That's just what bands do. Def Leppard, early Def Leppard isn't a unique band at all. They're just riding on the coattails of, bands like Judas Priest and Thin Lizzy. So it's not like early Def Leppard was this innovator necessarily either. It's just everyone takes from their influences. So you listen to Warrant, they're taking from Bon Jovi, but they're also taken from Thin Lizzy also, and taken from 70s bands. You're a combination of your influences. And so, as the song quality of those bands, if you actually listen to the records, there are so many great songs on those albums. And I will say, without hesitation, that, the first two Warrant albums are better than the first two Pumpkins albums. And, I know it's like, that's not the hip, trendy thing to say. And, Pumpkins innovated more. But I'm going song, pound per pound, song per song. For me, the most important thing is songwriting. And a lot of the songwriting of those bands is never really given the due respect it deserves.
if Siamese Dream weren't like a next level album for me, I might agree with you, because certainly Gish. But it's just when you're tackling Siamese Dream, to me, that's like literally one of the best records of the 20th century.
And here's what, I agree with you. I think it's a great record, but I'm saying that's how great I think those records are. So I think they're
but
just.
I'm not saying it's a great record. I'm saying it's like one of the great records. If we're talking about a great record, you can say Nevermind is a great record. I don't consider it one of like the great records, and I certainly don't consider Warrant, or I don't consider anything Judas Priest did to be one of the great records. So, I mean, I guess that's just where I'm coming from. To me, it's like next level. It's in another category. It's even in another category from every single Pumpkins album they ever did. I think part of them was constantly chasing that.
Wait, what makes something one of the great records then?
Oh, well, I mean, something entirely arbitrary. Like, I'm not
right.
That's fair.
So it's
no.
So let me ask you this: is the White Album one of the great records?
No.
Okay, well then you're full of shit. Let's move on.
White Album is one of the worst things the Beatles ever did.
Okay, so we're just not going to agree on what is a great record, because the thing is, I think Siamese Dream is
over.
I think Siamese Dream is one of the greatest records ever made, but that's because there's a fuck ton of great records made, and I will say the White Album is one of the greatest albums ever made. But also by that same standard, so is Warrant's Cherry Pie. Same league as Siamese Dream. Next song on the list is Pissant.
Woo! Oh boy.
And you know what? This is the best rocker on the album. I don't give a shit. This song is badass. The song smokes. It's killer. It's fucking awesome. I love the drums on this one. Jimmy Chamberlain is my dude. That guy is amazing.
He's my dude. I will not argue. Man, here's
Greg
when I was going
4
back
weeks ago will argue with that.
Look, Jimmy Chamberlain was shit on Gish, and he's been great ever since.
They just didn't let
he had a rough start.
Yeah. When I was going back through this, I thought I had confused Pissant and Hello Kitty Cat. So I had initially put Hello Kitty Cat pretty low, because I'm looking at my rankings here, and Pissant was like 11 out of 14. That's pretty fucking low. And then I went back and listened to it and realized that Pissant actually wasn't that great. And
do you not like to rock?
Huh?
Do you not like to rock?
Oh, I love to rock.
Then why don't you like this song? Because this song fucking rocks, dude.
Because to me, rock is like Frail and Bedazzled. That's, to me, Pumpkins kind of rock. To me, this is just them kind of shitting their pants. Like there's rocking, and then there's punk crap. And this comes from someone who used to love punk, and then vastly fell out of love with it. And so
we're like opposites. I used to hate punk and then fell in love with it because Steve had me listen to Minor Threat. I'm like, this is great.
And we're just Minor Threat isn't even punk; they're hardcore. But
hardcore's a type of punk.
Yeah, it's a subset.
Hardcore punk, sure, let's say that. But when I think punk, I think like the Germs. And again, don't get me wrong, I used to love it, and then I just kind of like it. It's good for taking music back to its roots. But then when you stay there, it's kind of like the blues. I fucking hate the blues, but it's also because 90% of the blues is crap, because it's a genre built on taking things back to the basics. And a lot of people, once you strip away and get to the basics, they're not as good as you thought they were. So punk, to me, has a way of exposing a band's frailties. And to me, this is just kind of like, to me, it's too easy to write a punk song. So when I hear Pissant, I don't hear anything worth listening to. I just hear, oh, they were fucking around that day.
See, I don't even hear a punk song. I hear, some sweet drums. I hear a badass riff, and I hear some, aggressive vocals in between the badass riff. So I'm like, yeah, this is my kind of shit right here. I'm jamming to this. Play this, in a playlist next to a Rat song.
I think this one is officially considered the most punk song, one of the most punk songs the band did.
I don't even really consider it punk. I consider it like an aggressive rock song. I don't know what necessarily makes it more punk than anything they've done.
The scrappiness of it is what to me makes it punk. Like we were talking about, like the difference between Siamese Dream and this being like Siamese Dream is very produced. This is very underproduced, not deliberately, because their B-sides, they never got to that stage of development. This is the kind of song that feels like this is actually the intended level of development. And so it's just very scrappy. It's very plug in and go. And yeah, you can argue that punk isn't the only thing that has that aesthetic, but by this point, rock wouldn't have had that aesthetic. Grunge is kind of what brought that punk plug it in, go aesthetic back to rock music. So to me, this is still very Pumpkins punk.
I don't know. It's way catchier than the average grunge band, and this level of aggression and melody that's also here. It's not really a punk kind of melody. This is a very rock kind of melody, like almost AC/DC-esque in a way. If the drums were different, this could have been an AC/DC song. If you just had a more generic rock beat and didn't have Jimmy Chamberlain, this could have been an AC/DC track the way the song is arranged. So I'm seeing old school 70s hard rock with maybe a faster beat. So I'm hearing I'm hearing the Nuge, I'm hearing Kiss, I'm hearing that kind of stuff on this track, and I'm digging it. I'm hearing Lizzie, I'm hearing just badass rockers kicking ass, and I'm all about it.
Maybe that's what I'm hearing, and that's why I hate it, because to me that's the stuff that I was like forced down my throat, and that's why I was just kind of like, oh, if you want to play guitar, you got to play like this. No, I don't want to play.
And what's funny is when I was learning guitar, they said you have to start with Nirvana. They're the only songs you can learn when you're starting on guitar. And so I just grew up hating alt rock. I'm like, what? Why are you doing this? What happened to hooks, guys? Hooks were great.
Probably a lesson there. Oh, you want to talk about? You think Nirvana doesn't have hooks? Oh,
no, Nirvana has hooks.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to say that Nirvana doesn't have hooks. They're a catchy band. I don't like Nirvana, but I'm not going to say they're a bad band.
Okay.
Like I just because it's not within my taste, I can acknowledge when something's good, even if I don't like it. Nirvana is definitely a good band. Nevermind is a good record.
I love AC/DC, but I'm even though Ted Nugent, like, he could die tomorrow and I would be happy.
So here's the thing about the Nuge. I don't like him as a person, but like, man, the dude's got some bitchin' tunes, like Cat Scratch Fever. Like, come on.
Oh yeah. Dude knows how to play guitar. I'm not knocking, and whipping post.
There are so many reasons to knock the Nuge. His music is not one of them.
Yeah, exactly. But pick the right things to hate. So I guess, getting back on topic. To me, this is, I guess if you like it as a different thing that Pumpkins do, but to me, this just sounds like they're wasting their time. Like, some songs sound like they're rocking out and having fun. This just sounds like they're rocking out and wasting my damn time. Like, great. Cool. Please end the song soon. Thank you.
Man, I just disagree. This song kicks ass. You guys just don't like the Smashing Pumpkins as much as I do. You're allowed to be wrong. That's cool.
Yeah. We like what we have higher standards because we like them so much. And so this, it just sounds like,
I don't know. Maybe you have higher standards. Steve doesn't. He likes Gish. So
it's just like, why would I listen to Pissant when you could be giving me another In the Arms of Sleep? It's like, why are you doing this?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. You have to remember. So
yeah, they're better than this.
To be fair, you could listen to Pissant twice while listening to In the Arms of Sleep before you could hear any of the notes of In the Arms of Sleep.
It's an epic, Steve. You have to set the setting for the epic.
Every time that song comes up, I'm like, wait, did it pause? Oh no, it's okay. We got about 2 minutes before the song starts.
Do that with Porcelina.
Oh yeah, it's Porcelina that does it too.
Maybe like 3 times in my life, just because I tried to get through the beginning, and I'm just like, I can't. I'm done. I don't have time for this.
All right, so the next song on the list, we have "Hello Kitty Cat."
Yes.
And here's the thing with this song is like, this to me was much weaker than Pissant. So explain to me why this is better in your mind, because to me it's like, oh, it's not as catchy and it doesn't rock as hard. There's not as much interesting musically to it. It's just like, to me, this one is almost more punk because it's just, basically just chords throughout, not really much interesting things going on musically. So why is this one superior?
Okay, it's superior to Pissant because I'm going to disagree with you that this one doesn't rock as hard, because I don't necessarily interpret rock in terms of just straight aggression, and I get like, maybe I should, but to me that's like doing a disservice to the concept of rock. To me, the rhythm in this one is so much more interesting and unique. This one, Pissant is just bleh. It's just a whir. It's just a blur. It's just bleh. It's like it's a vomit, whereas this one is like actual aggression. It's like controlled aggression, which may make it less aggressive, but it makes it have more of a point to me. This song sounds like they're in control. Pissant just sounds like they're making a bunch of fucking garbage noise, whereas this one actually sounds like a fucking song. It's just a loud song.
See, this song, I don't remember how it goes, despite listening to it like 6 times. I don't remember it. I remember enjoying it when listening to it, but just the melody wasn't as good. and like the hooks weren't there for me. Pissant had hooks, and to me, rock doesn't necessarily need to be aggressive to be good. So it's not like, man, I need to be totally macho. I have to listen to Disturbed and shit. I can't listen to this, wimpy stuff by the Zombies. But, I will listen to
Disturbed did a cover of Beechwood Park. I would be into that.
Right. But the thing is, like, I enjoy a band like the Zombies more than Disturbed. And, it's not because, like, they rock harder. It's like, for me, I'm a song guy. How's the songwriting? How are the hooks? That's basically my rule every single time.
I feel the same way. I just feel like this is a better song. I feel like...
What's the hook in the song?
I don't wanna be...
Yeah, I mean, it's a hook.
I like it. This is one of the ones, much like, Mayonnaise and Siva and a bunch of other ones, where I had to write down the hook that was most memorable to me so I could remember which song it was.
That's how great the Pumpkins are. You can't remember what their song sounds like.
Because the titles have nothing to do with the song. And then, in addition, I had to write down what I thought the lyrics of this one were, because they had nothing to do with the actual lyrics when I looked them up.
Oh, that is just not a standard for me. That's what I grew up on. I grew up in this alt 90s shit where you could have a song to stick about something completely different. Then someone's like, "Oh, what should we name this?" You look over and there's a jar, and there's like, "Let's call this song Marmalade." I don't fucking care.
I'm annoyed with that. I don't like that at all. I feel it is just pretentious and dumb, and I think it's cool to do it sometimes, but when it's like every track on the album, it's like, no, just shut the fuck up and name the song what it's actually about.
Position of power.
How do you know they aren't, though? That's the thing. Like, to me, I come from the line of like, a title is important. A title means something, and the fact that it doesn't quote unquote connect to the lyrics is exactly what makes it mean something.
No,
it has extra level.
No, I fully disagree. Like Mayonnaise, we were talking about on Siamese Dream. Good song. The title has nothing to do with it, and that's dumb, because you know what mayonnaise is? Sure? It's a condiment. It doesn't mean anything. Billy Corgan has said the song doesn't mean anything. It's just stream of consciousness bullshit.
Yeah, Mayonnaise is one he has admitted to just a bunch of couplets he thinks sounds cool.
So what you're saying is the title is as meaningless as the lyrics, and they're not connected? Oh.
What I'm saying is, you know what I like? Lyrics that mean something. Like, hey, I'm going to write a song and the lyrics are actually like telling an emotional story or narrative or something. Well, like, cool. One of my favorite bands is Thin Lizzy, a band that has great lyrics, and I'll acknowledge that, Kiss, another band I love, has shitty lyrics. But I like lyrics that mean something, and this shit frustrates me.
You get to decide what it means. Here's the thing. Billy Corgan may have said it was stream of consciousness. Sure. If you listen to a lot of the early U2 albums, and I'm not going to say you might like them, you might hate them, whatever.
I'm okay with them.
Bono also admits that he'd never really learned how to write lyrics until their fourth record. He admits that, or fifth record, sorry, because he was saying like a lot of it was just pastiches. It was bullshit. But you know what is not bullshit? Because it's words sung by a person in the background of music. That means something, whether the songwriters thinks that what it means is what it means or not. You get to decide this, and that might sound like pretentious art school bullshit, but to me, it's just
because it is.
No, as a person, you already decide what shit means. When Billy Corgan says, I wrote a song about a car, this is a song about a car, cool. When you're listening to it, what the fuck does a car mean to you versus what it means to him? So even though he says it's about a car, what it really means is it's about a car and what a car means to you. It's you plus subject of the song. It's author plus reader. And to me, if an artist admits that a song doesn't mean anything to them, quote unquote, it means something to you. So who fucking cares? To me, Mayonnaise is an extremely meaningful song because I was listening to it at parts of my life where the lyrics meant a lot, where the hook really got to me. That song means something.
But did you ever wish it had a better title? Like, other than just like a condiment you put on your sandwiches to make them taste better? Like, yeah, Liquid Egg, the song.
To me, the song elevates the title. Even if the title is garbage, which it totally is. By the way, I think they also misspell it. I think it's with one S.
Billy loves misspelling song names.
Oh, man,
I mean,
I got so pissed off when he spelled Shiva wrong. I'm like, God damn it.
God, anyway.
Wrong God.
Well, I mean, depends.
That's where you get into the issues with transliteration, and we're not going to get into that because, Anyway, not the time nor place. Anyway, but to me, the thing is, like, if you want to knock it, sure. But to me, the song is so important, it elevates the title. Is it a shitty title? Yeah, totally. But does it still mean something to me? And is it still important to me because the song is important? Yes.
So when you open up your fridge and look at a jar of mayonnaise, do you start to weep? Like, this reminds me of when, like, my girlfriend broke up with me in high school and I was listening to that pumpkin song. Or do you think, you know what, I could go for a sandwich right now?
That's what I mean. I don't. Because to me, there are two mayonnaises. There's the mayonnaise you think about, the Hellmann's or whatever brand you prefer. And then there's mayonnaise that is the title of the Smashing Pumpkins song. Like, that song has, like, reclaimed the word as its own.
So if somebody released a brand that spelled it wrong in the same way, would that, like, upset you?
Wait, sorry, I don't understand.
If somebody released a brand of mayonnaise that spelled it wrong in the same way Billy did, would that, like, throw you for a loop encountering that in the store?
Still no, because I don't.
So here is my point is they could just have the song would be better with a not shitty title. I think it is very hard to argue the point. You know what? It is a good thing that this song has a really shitty title that turns a lot of people off it immediately.
But you know what really bugs me still? It bugs me when I'm listening to a song, like, I'm looking at the lyrics for Hello Kitty Cat. So let's just say, like, the chorus is, I hate to say it, like, who's sorry now? If the song was called Sorry, I would fucking hate that. I hate songs where it's so obvious what the fucking title is. And it's just, especially when the song is something generic as sorry. Like, say, like, I fucking hate Morrissey, but I love the Smiths. So the song says, like, please, please, please let me get what I want. If the song was just called Please Let Me Get What I Want, I just became like, god damn it. The fact the song is called Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want is like, okay, that's kind of cool. You did a thing. That's neat. You fucked with the title. It's just...
I'm old school. I like position of power. I like to know the title of the song that I'm listening to. Like, if I'm live at a show and I hear, oh, this is the main hook of the song, I want to be able to check out that song later on my own time. And so if I can't tell what the song is from the hooks at the live show, I'm not going to know what song to look up.
It is always weird when you talk to a band after their set and like, hey, where can I find that, the song that went, who's sorry now?
Like,
if you don't actually know the name of the song.
Oh, you mean Hello Kitty Cat? Or like we all grew up on, like, LimeWire and shit. There was always song for the hook. They would always fucking title the song the name of the hook. And just because it was all those 90 bands, it was just like, oh, well, that song's actually called Fluorescent. I'm sorry. I don't know that. But all you say is fuck through the entire song. Why not just call it fuck? Like,
because it's called Fluorescent.
There's a song my other band did, and the song's called So We Transform, and you can whatever the song. But they only say I only say the actual title of the song once throughout it because
that's more than a lot of Pumpkin songs.
Yeah, and oftentimes I didn't. But the title, the main, like, hook of the chorus is like, come on, come on, come on, da 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 da, come on. And everyone in the band wanted to name the song Come On. And basically, my reaction was, go fuck yourselves.
Who do you think we are, Zwan?
I would have named the song Come On.
Yeah, see, to me that's stupid, and no offense.
Well, I like pop music. I feel like you probably don't like pop music as much as I do.
No, I love pop music. See, that's the thing. I love pop music, but
he wrote a song that went, come on, come on, come on.
If you title the song Come On, Come On, Come On,
what's the last line of the chorus?
So We Transform.
Well, there we go. So and you called the song So We Transform.
Right.
So that's good. That's good. That's position of power. You're still doing it right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, but the point is I'm not focusing on the big thing everyone's going to remember.
But what I'm saying is, typically what I like with a song is either the main hook of the chorus or the last line of the chorus or a title that kind of, explains the meaning of the song a little bit. One of those three, not this is completely unrelated and separate.
But I'm okay with quote-unquote unrelated and separate because what it does is it adds another dimension. You start thinking, what the hell does that title actually mean? And again, I don't really care when an artist in an interview says like, oh yeah, it didn't mean anything. Because here's the other thing. Artists don't necessarily know what the fuck this shit means. When they say it didn't mean anything, who knows if they're telling the fucking truth? Who knows if they even know if they're telling the fucking truth? So it means something. It never doesn't mean anything.
So I wrote a song that doesn't mean anything on purpose as a joke. And we actually had a fan tattoo the lyrics of that song on her arm. And I'm like, I don't have the heart to tell her that song is a joke and bullshit. And I did like pretentious.
Means something to her.
Apparently.
It meant something to her.
Well,
So who
she's
cares,
wrong.
right?
All right. Next up on the list is Plume.
Ooh, Plume. Oh man, I fucking love this one. I forget where I put it in the rankings. It was probably high, but because I remember bouncing it around, and to me, this is the kind of song, exactly the kind of songs that I love from the Pumpkins, where it's a little weird, it's a little off. It's clear that they're relying on that one kind of cool riff that's going on. That's a very fuzz-based riff. It does feature one of like the worst lyrics I've ever fucking heard from them, but that's really...
Is that the lyric that Steve loves?
Yeah, which lyric is it?
It's my boredom has outshined the sun.
Oh man, like yeah, that was my take on this song. Is I really loved this song as a high schooler because I lived in rural Wisconsin and was bored all the time. So like listen to this song, and be like, yeah, my boredom has outshined the sun, whatever that means.
It's all gone. I mean,
and yeah, I listened to it today and was like, you know what? Maybe the song hasn't aged that well, so I put it somewhere in the middle. But I do.
To me,
I like that lyric.
His two worst lyrics to me all revolve around sunshine, because the worst lyric they've ever fucking done is "the sun shines but I don't."
I love that.
That's so bad. Jesus Christ, that's so bad. The sun shines but I don't. Holy fuck. Oh my god, sorry. Maybe it's too close to home as like somebody who suffered from depression. I wrote a lot of like real shitty ass lyrics. I'm trying to explain my feelings, my deep feelings. And so I used a lot of sun and light and shine metaphors. So maybe it's just me. When I read that, I'm just like, it makes my balls shrivel up like, inside. I hate it so much. It's so bad.
You know what? This song was remarkably okay.
Okay, you're really sold on it.
You know, but here's the
ringing endorsement.
Like it's very much in the style of the Pumpkins of that era, and it is better than the Gish songs, but weaker than the Siamese Dream songs. It's good. There's nothing objectively bad about it in my mind, but nothing that great or distinct about it. It's just a middle of the road Pumpkin song. I'm still glad I heard it. There's still bits of it I like, and it can still get stuck in my head. And as far as my boredom has outshined the sun, I'm okay with that line. I really had a lot of beef with a lot of the alt rock scene because I thought the music was too depressing, and I got annoyed with how depressed all of my peers were. Like, guys, why don't we just go party and have a good time? Like, nah, I'm just gonna listen to some My Chemical Romance in my room. And like, man, what the fuck? Like, I just want to party and have a good time, and everyone's listening to all this whiny bullshit. What happened to rock and roll with, like, badassness and balls? What is this shit? And so this song reminds me of, everyone being wimpy and whiny in high school. But you know what? It's a good song, and I respect the wimpy and whiny mentality. I get why you're there at different points in your life.
Right.
I was wimpy and whiny at one point, so I get it. But, it's all right.
I might cringe a little, but like I said, I still fucking love the song. When I heard it, I was just like, oh yeah, this one. God, I love this one.
Yeah, it's all right. Does anyone else have anything more to say about it?
Yeah, here's one little snippet, and only because I'm on the Genius lyrics. Apparently, this song being on the album resulted in Drown not being on Pisces Iscariot, which I will take personally because I really wish I'd heard Drown 5 years earlier than I heard it. So I'm kind of annoyed. That's an album. That was a song that was on the Singles soundtrack around the same time, recorded in the same sessions, but it only came out on one fucking soundtrack. So years before Spotify, I would have had to spend $15 to listen to one damn song.
$15 for the Singles soundtrack? Buy it used for like $2, bro.
Now $14.99 back then at Best Buy
for Singles.
Tower Records.
Man, you want to talk about things that didn't age well? The movie Singles.
Man. It's a movie called Singles.
No, I'm saying that movie did not age well.
Oh God, no! Fuck no.
That's what I was saying. That did not age well at all. Like, tell anyone who was born after 1998 about that movie. They're not going to know what the fuck you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, it was.
Why are you looking up music from The Elder?
There was a Reddit thread about underrated rock operas.
Damn it, Steve, we're not on that episode. But also, that person is correct.
I was going to say, is that the exception that proves the rule?
I mean, that's the one that I just tossed on there. Is like, look, I got a friend who swears by this one.
Oh, that was a mistake. But anyway, yeah. So I'm good with. I'm done with Plume, I think.
All right, so next up on the list, we have Starla, which I ranked as the worst song on the album.
Oh, God. You like rock epics and you didn't like this?
I like rock epics with hooks.
Oh, man. They don't have to have hooks. They can just be fucking pure rock.
I think it's, like 2 minutes before vocals kick in on this song?
Yeah.
Something like that. And that's like, all right, I know you've been waiting 2 minutes. Gonna be really soft and not catchy. Like, all right.
It's atmosphere. It's the vocals of the one voice, and when they come in, Billy always talks about one of the favorite things he does when he writes long songs is hitting the reset button, and that's exactly what that does. It hits the reset button.
So the thing is, I listen to a lot of Jim Steinman, so it's not that I can't handle long songs. It's just like I don't like my long songs to be really slow and boring. So the fact that this is like, the thing is, there's a lot of good parts to this song, but I remember when I got done listening to it for the first time, like, oh man, I know as my rule, I listen to everything on, these albums for the podcast at least 3 times. I don't want to listen to this song ever again. And so that was my immediate thought after being done with it. Like, shit, I have to listen to this 2 more times in my life.
All right. 30 minutes of my life I'll never get back. But,
it's... I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just boring.
Oh, man. I'd been conditioned to long, epic Pumpkin songs, and this was just like the long, epic ones on Melancholy do drag a bit. Like, not a huge fan of XYU, or I'm trying to remember what the other ones are, but they do drag. And to me, this one was like the epic nature of that, but with the sound that I like, which I would eventually realize was the Siamese Dream sound, even though I hate Silverfuck, which you'd think I'd like because of that. So to me, Starla is all about the riff. It's the fact that they're building this, like some Pumpkin songs are epics, like you've got In the Arms of Sleep, which are more like Steinman style, classic, orchestral, like going through movements. And then you have things like this, which are more of like, it's more based on like Eastern kind of like trance music, where it's the same thing over and over again, but that's the point. And a lot of people consider that boring, and I won't knock anyone who does, because I get it. I've heard it done wrong. But when you do it right, which is what I think something like this is, it's just, you fucking zone out, and it creates this otherworldly experience. And especially with the phaser, some of the guitar effects they're using on this, is just like a psychedelic epic, which I just fucking enjoy the way it builds and moves and shifts and gets like trance-like repetitive. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I fucking loved it.
I also put this as my second favorite song. I don't gush nearly as much about it, but yeah, I do like just
sorry.
11-minute songs, like the slow ones that build forever and then, get super loud and then fade off. Like that sort of, to me, is it's like a platonic ideal of music, is the idea of these songs that start quiet, get loud, and then fade out over the course of a very long period of time. Also, I'm a programmer, and that sort of thing works really well for being in the right headspace while working.
Yeah.
I like songs I can remember what they sound like.
I'm okay with just completely forgetting a song as soon as it's over, but 20 minutes having passed.
I think there's room for both. I think there's room for the song that affects your atmosphere in the immediate, and then there's songs that you find yourself singing the next day. As long as you don't, stick with only one of the two, or just if you can't do one, don't try the other.
Or if you can do both at the same time.
And, I'm...
like, this song was 30 minutes long and I don't remember how it goes. Why is it stuck in my head now?
But I remember that one part over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, people would hate you for that.
Yeah, in general, I'm not much into atmospheric music. I'm a guy who's the most important thing for me is typically melody. So atmospheric music usually isn't my bag. That's why I'm not as into the Final Fantasy XII soundtrack as I am the other ones. Because where are the hooks? Give me some hooks, nerds. Right.
Oh man, I haven't gone that far. I don't think I've ever listened to anything they did past 8.
9's pretty good.
Is it still Nobuo? No,
Nobuo stopped after 10. 10 was his last hurrah. And just
cool. Maybe I'll go listen to that.
12, you'll listen to I don't remember anything that just happened at all for 2.5 hours. This is disappointing.
Damn. Yeah, but, I mean, I
like music I can remember. I like music I can remember. If I can remember certain atmospheric music, this music just I can see why you would like it, and there's good individual parts of it where I can say that's not bad there. I like what they're doing there, but as a whole, this is. I was listening to it on the way here, so I could try to remember it.
Yeah,
I don't. So I gave it the honest college try.
I guess to me is to me that's the catchy part. That's the thing I remember that. But whatever.
Yeah, and to me that sounds like I've never heard that before in my life. You just did it, and I listened to it on the car ride over here. So it's not for lack of effort.
Right, yeah.
Steve listens to each Kiss album we do one time. I listen to each Pumpkins album we do a minimum of 4 times.
Yeah, I put in a lack of effort.
So I'm trying to give it a fair shake. So if I don't like something the first listen, maybe I'll get it the next time, or maybe I need to reevaluate my position on it. So I'm trying to not just come as I heard it once and it sucks. I gave it a fair shot. Wasn't my thing.
Right. Fair enough. I mean, this song I admit this song had to grow on me. It wasn't my favorite out of the first of them because I had the exact same feeling. It was just it takes too long. I would often skip it just because there wasn't something there right at the beginning. And so it took me a little while to get it. It was when I would put it on shuffle and it would pop up and it would just I'd get suddenly it would get to the rock part and I was just oh, what the fuck is this? This is awesome. Oh, it's in the middle of that song. And then I'd go back and listen to the whole thing. And eventually I just got the song. So to me, I'm okay with growers. It doesn't necessarily have to be a shower for me to like it. But I mean, there's going to be a different list for an album I've been listening to for a week than the one I've been listening to for a year, and then the one I've been listening to for half my life.
Right.
So this was definitely one that took a little while to sink in, but once it did, it was there, and I will, I'll defend it to death. I'm going to see them with the quote unquote reunited lineup soon, and I'm really hoping they play this one beyond hope because I know they fucking won't. But
And I'll acknowledge I could see myself liking this song at some point in the future, but present day, if I have to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it's a thumbs down.
Yeah, it's definitely not the lead single off a record.
No, not quite.
Well, I mean, they've done stupider things, but they definitely didn't do this particular stupid thing. So
that's an impressive level of stupid.
Right. There's a lot of people who'd have to make bad decisions for that to happen. Because eventually you're going to get executive meddling of somebody saying, no, the 11-minute psychedelic jam song is not the lead single.
Not the lead single.
The psychedelic jam song that has vocals starting 2 minutes in. After a really soft intro, you have to turn up your car speakers to be able to hear.
All right, fine. It's the lead single, but we're editing out 7 of those minutes. Pick your favorite 4, Billy.
Were you listening to the remastered version?
No, we're listening to the old CD.
Oh, okay, yeah. Listen to the remastered version. It's a lot. Obviously, the standards are different, so it's much better. It comes across much better on a car. It's not as soft. But, because
I did also listen to it in my headphones remastered at work, just from a YouTube pool. So I've listened to remastered, didn't do it for me that way either. So
fair enough. I'm just saying that one thing you were talking about that would solve the issue.
Well, no, I was just saying in terms of it being a single, poor decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Now the new single from the Pumpkins. Any minute now.
Right?
It'll happen. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so now we're moving into, it looks like, the top 5, and all these songs are great. So I'm pretty happy with the bunch we're getting to. This next song, I think, is fantastic. Reminds me a lot of one of my all-time favorite bands, which is probably why I have a soft spot for it. But next up on the list is Whir.
Oh, yeah. Granted. Yeah.
This reminds me a lot of She Knows by Thin Lizzy. I'm like, all right, yep, sold. Down with it.
I think I had it lower down on my list because this was one of the couple songs where I could not fucking remember what it was. Like, I knew the title, I knew that it was on the album, and I was trying to remember the hook, and I was just like, wow, this one didn't sink in at all.
This is one of the ones with the hook in the title, or the title in the hook.
Yeah,
which is why Greg likes it. Greg's like, yay, position of power.
Although the way he pronounced it, I always thought he was saying whirl.
He does sound like he says whirl.
Honestly, it could be, because later on he says, my honey little girl, come on, let's go for a whirl. He says it later.
Yeah.
So I think he did say whirl, and it was just like, well, I can't say it twice, so fuck. Whir.
My
Whir
honey,
it is.
little girl, come on, let's go for a whir.
Come on, little girl, let's go for a whir.
It's the Skinner version of the song.
It's Uri, the sun is seeping.
Son of sleeper.
I'm just waiting for the Smashing Pumpkins to cover Green Grass and High Tides.
Well, you'll be waiting a while. I'm just saying, in the situation right now, you'll be waiting a while.
Oh, wow. I'm reading the lyrics, and I just realized the lyric is, she said she wants to marry me. She says she wants a baby. That's totally she wants to bury me.
Oh! You did... Ooh, man.
See, I thought she said... Fuck. Yeah, I thought I heard I bury me too when I listened to the record.
This is a B-sides collection, so it's possible to get the lyrics for the liner notes and the lyrics that are in the actual take mixed up.
Oh yeah, and also like the person putting this together might not care. Right. There is a German import of a Kiss album I have, and the lyric is supposed to say 5 o'clock, but instead they write Bible crop.
Bible crop's growing in real good this year. The Gideons are going to be real happy.
Yeah, don't you love it when it's like better?
Yeah, no, it's better. I'm like, shoot, the song just got way more interesting.
Like, oh, that was a topic I did not think Gene was broaching. This is wonderful.
Oh no, come on, Gene wouldn't come with that good of a lyric.
Yeah. But yeah, I know for a fact that there are a couple other examples of Pumpkin's lyrics where he's saying one thing and then the lyric is printed as a different thing, and it was just a different take or whatever, different. Yeah, so
this is the Genius.com version of them listed.
Yeah, I know, but they're still taking off what might be on the published actual thing because they also include the liner notes.
Yeah,
which come with the record.
Do you guys enjoy the shitty '90s liner notes where it's just walls of text organized really poorly?
Dude, my band in college, our liner notes were literally chord charts for every song. I like liner notes with stuff happening in them.
I love reading about bands and learning about their songwriting, and liner notes help me with that.
Well, no, I enjoy that. I'm talking about like...
Yeah, like the 90s liner notes that you can't read and don't say anything useful anyway. No, those aren't good.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like the 90s liner notes where it's like also... Hey, here's the lyrics for all the songs of the album in a really weird artistic way where you can't actually read it because it's like a blurry image and they're scrambled around the page. Versus, I have Melancholy in my car now. I'm like, look at this. The lyrics for the songs are in order. I can read the lyrics to the songs.
It's a different level of appreciation because a lot of it, and I know I'm going to get on my artsy-fartsy bullshit here, but a lot of the early 90s was about deconstructing the concept that had built up in the rock and roll industry over fucking 20 or 30 years. So it was a lot about like saying like, you expect these liner notes to be normal. Well, go fuck yourself. You know, and it was making a statement. We can argue about the validity of that statement or whatever. But now we appreciate it on a practical level. Like, I just want to know the words, man.
That's my thing. And I think with a lot of 90s bands, it was throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Like, there's so many improvements you could have made, but like, did you have to get rid of legible lyric sheets and hooks Like, come on.
Well, yeah.
Well, the
You never
CD
know which-
era, I think, killed legible lyric sheets as much as anything, just because
No.
you lost so much real estate.
I don't think so, because I have Bad for Good on CD, and they have lyrics, and those songs are all like 8 minutes long, and they have all the words. So I'm calling bullshit. If Bad for Good can figure out a way to put the lyrics in there, then other bands can.
It's not like they couldn't figure out a way. It's that they were trying new ways, and some ways failed, some ways succeeded.
And, I'm going to give the Pumpkins
the
credit
failures.
because they realized this was kind of a shitty way to do things. Because on Melancholy, like, you know what? Let's make the words so people can read them. Like,
Yeah, and also to be fair, this was a B-sides compilation.
well, I'm including
riskier.
Siamese Dream in that because I love Siamese Dream, but the liner notes for that were bullshit.
Oh man, I forget. Were they? I honestly did.
They were the one that were handwritten.
Oh Jesus Christ, were they?
Yeah,
Come
in Billy's
okay.
completely illegible handwriting.
I love Billy's handwriting for logos and for art, but for the actual lyrics,
Yeah, come on. For like, why would you bother giving me an entire booklet of that? Like, I can't read this. There was no point. You were wasting paper.
But again, I would rather they try something and fail than just not try. And I appreciate.
I'd rather just have lyric sheets I can read. I'd rather have them. You know what? Here's what you do. You try it. You print it out. And then you look at it before you send it to market. Like, you know what? This is actually pretty shitty. Never mind.
You get a proof and you review your proof.
But you know that now, and I think we just have to appreciate that there were people who had to take some chances and risk failing for us to know what the best thing is.
You know the thing that they've been doing for decades, that thing that everyone did was the standard because it was more coherent. Let's try to not do that. Oh shit, that was a bad idea. Never mind. Let's go back to the thing that they were doing for like 50 years.
Oh wait, you mean slavery?
No, not slavery.
Do you mean segregation? 'Cause
No.
that
But
worked.
here's the thing. Here's the
difference.
difference. There's a difference between slavery and legible liner notes.
Are you saying that my examples are perhaps not weighted the same?
Yes.
No, I'm just saying that. Yeah, no, that was on purpose. All I'm saying is that
For the sake of artistic clarity, it's like, you know what? It is nice to be able to read the lyrics for the songs where the vocals are really low in the mix and you can't hear them.
Look, some of those people who made the different signs for the fountains were very good graphic designers. I'd call that artistic.
Yeah, no, I deliberately chose an inflammatory thing, but my point is the argument of done this way, it worked fine, doesn't work because it's art, man.
And I agree with you. I think, just because something is a tradition doesn't mean it needs to stay a tradition, but that doesn't mean you need to get rid of all traditions. Sometimes certain traditions are good. Like, what's a tradition that we got rid of that we should maybe bring back? Unions.
I'm not even sure that's a tradition. I think that was a recent invention that fell out of favor. Now, I wouldn't disagree with that, but I guess what I'm saying is,
so are you a socialist?
Yeah. I'm Canadian, man. We're all socialists up there. Come on. No, all I'm saying is that you have the benefit of hindsight of saying like, well, this worked and it was fine. Sure. You may not have liked the variation, but I'm sure there are tons of variations that happened because of that same spirit that you like more than the original. And all you're doing is pointing out the one that didn't work, which is great as someone who gets to live after the innovation happened. But as the people who are doing the innovating, they didn't fucking know. They wanted to see what worked, and some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. And I think to knock the stuff that didn't work and say that it wasn't worth trying is blatantly incorrect, because you 100% benefit from things that were tried and did succeed, and they were tried in the exact same spirit as the thing that failed.
So here's my thing. Bands are still doing this kind of bullshit, and it definitely didn't work. So it's like, no, stop. Please stop.
Well, maybe that's just not for you then. Maybe that's just not for you. You got lyric websites to benefit from.
If you're going to bother giving me a liner note with lyrics, make it so I can read the lyrics, please. If you're going to bother. Like, if you're just going to do a sleeve or just make it full-on artistic, all right, whatever. Full-on artistic is fine. I'm cool with just visual art. But if you're doing, all the lyrics for all the songs and you make it so you can't read any of them, why did you bother?
So,
because the other
a good
could have been a label. What? Sorry.
One of my favorite counterexamples of this is the Death Clock albums have intentionally wrong lyrics in the liner notes.
Well, but
Because
do they
he
make
wrote
it
all these,
illegible
like-
to read?
No, yeah, they're completely legible.
So that's different because that's a joke and that's funny.
But, maybe that's part of the artistic statement that they want to make, is that, like, they're not so wrong that it's obvious, but because he's doing these guttural death growls the entire time, you can't really tell what he's saying. And so they printed wrong but very similar lyrics, and the fans are still debating about, like, what is the actual lyric there? Is it what it says in the book, or is it the thing that we all think it sounds like? And it might be
part of a game.
Yeah, and it might be sort of part of the same thing, is that illegible
Yep.
handwriting is part of the art. You actually having access to the lyrics isn't necessarily part of it.
That's the other thing. There's another option, which is that perhaps having lyrics in your liner notes was mandated as part of whatever label made your decisions, or whatever executive wanted to make your decisions, but you didn't want that. So another good way to get around that would be to, hey, the lyrics are in there, man.
Why do you want to be a dick to your fans?
You're not being a dick to your fans. You're wanting your fans to experience the art the way you want them to experience it. And someone is trying to tell you not to, so you do it differently.
I don't know. I think it's dumb.
I know. I just don't like it. I just don't like it when people see what they perceive as pretension and then shut down the door to try and interpret what they actually intend.
No, here's the thing is, I try to understand. I do perceive it as pretension, I admit that, and then I try to understand it, and if I don't get to any good conclusion, then I'm like, okay, well, that was bullshit, why did you waste my time? Like, if I actually get to a deep meaning behind something, like, okay, that was worth the journey, but it's like, yeah, we just thought it was kind of cool looking. Oh, no, fuck you, it's dumb. Shut up. Like, I appreciate layers and depth. It's not that. I need it to be worth my time.
That's not pretension. That's the opposite of pretension. Because there is no pretense. It's like, no, it didn't mean anything. You're done. There's no pretense. It's literally the opposite of pretensions.
I don't know, man. It's not my thing. If you like buying a CD with vocals low in the mix and the liner notes don't actually give you a way to understand the lyrics, I think this would be way more annoying if this was pre-internet. Like, the fact that, because lyric sheets now, like, okay, whatever, we can find it. But, like, if this was pre-internet, like, what is he saying when he says,
I mean,
it totally was.
That's how I was first listening to it, and I just sort of guessed.
Yeah, exactly. They want you to, a lot of the times they wanted you to guess.
Just saying whatever I thought the lyrics were.
See, I guess with me, as a guy who writes lyrics, I kind of want you to know what they are.
I mean, I feel the same way.
So, that's kind of important to me. Like, you know what? I want you to know what these words are because I took the time to do it. If you are actually interested in knowing what these words are, I want to give you access to that.
I mean, fair enough. I just don't think not doing it that way is disrespectful.
So, any other comments on the song itself were?
Is that the one we're talking about?
Sorry.
My one comment on the song in and of itself is I do like that of their acoustic songs of this era, this is one of the ones that's more fully produced. Like, a lot of their acoustic songs tend to be, fairly stripped down. This is just Billy and an acoustic guitar, whereas this one, like, they took the time to get really good acoustic tone out of it and layered it up a little bit. And
yeah, no, I definitely think that it gives it almost this, like, alt country before alt country was a thing kind of vibe.
It sounds like Thin Lizzy, so I like it.
I hear God, what's that? I hear Wilco just before Wilco was Wilco.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, they're an alt rock band from that era.
Okay,
they're like an alt country. They're like an alt country band.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Alt country is definitely a thing, man. Sorry.
You can do alt everything.
Oh yeah.
Alt country.
I'm going to give you another pet peeve of mine. Calling it alternative music, especially when it became mainstream.
Well, that just
hear me out on
all
this.
Slaves to the nomenclature. There was no solution to it.
I understand that, but like calling an indie band, a band signed to Warner Brothers Records, an indie band is fucking bullshit.
Oh, I agree with you. I was so mad when indie became a genre.
Yes.
Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like, no,
Literally, it's independent.
yeah, so if you're signed to Warner Brothers or Geffen, fuck you, you're not an indie band. And when alternative rock became the mainstream, like, oh, this is alternative rock, like, no, it's not. This is what's on every station. That's not the alternative. The alternative are the old rock bands. They're now the alt rock bands. I understand the nomenclature. I understand how it happened, but it's still bullshit and dumb.
Nope, don't disagree with you at all. I'm right there with you. I fucking hate it.
All right, cool. We found something we can agree on.
Jack White is my favorite indie band.
Shut the fuck up, Steve.
Yeah. All right, cool. So what's the next song?
Next up is Blew Away.
Oof. Yeah, a James Iha song.
I loved this song. I don't know if it's just because I like tinted windows and think that James Iha, writes, good pop stuff. When I first heard the song, I thought it was a cover. Like, what? Billy Corgan doesn't write anything this catchy and direct. I'm like, oh, it's James Iha. All right.
Ah, yes.
But yeah, I dug it. This is my favorite original song on the album. This is a very cool cut. It's catchy. It's fun. It's cute. I don't have anything really bad to say about it.
I guess I don't have anything bad to say about it either. It's just the two Iha songs that are on Airplane Flies High are very similar to this. So as much as and again, I didn't know that at the time. So when I was listening to this, I was just kind of like, I didn't even know it was James Iha doing this. I'll admit, when I was a kid, I didn't even realize that it wasn't Billy singing. Not like I didn't know. It was just I didn't listen to this song a lot. It kind of like went in one ear and out the other. So having come around and realizing that, like, oh, this is James doing his thing and exploring the kind of country stuff that he did on a solo record. I've appreciated this a hell of a lot more. I agree. It's much more catchy in a straightforward way than a lot of Pumpkin stuff is, which I wasn't listening to the Pumpkins for at the time, so I didn't appreciate it. Because like I could listen to catchy stuff, and then I listened to Smashing Pumpkins, and I didn't get the same thing out of it, so I wasn't expecting.
Right. I mean, the Spice Girls were around.
Yeah, and the Spice Girls were fucking great. I mean, if you wanted catchy with guitars, when I was around, you listened to Matchbox 20, or you listened to Third Eye Blind.
Oh yeah.
You didn't go to Smashing Pumpkins for that because that's not what they were doing. So I appreciated it, but I didn't love it, and now I enjoyed a hell of a lot more than I used to.
Well, when I first heard it, I didn't notice it was James Iha singing. I think because the vocals, the way they produce vocals on Pumpkins records, and the fact that they all sort of sing in that very quiet, whispery way. Like when I first heard the last track on Gish, Daydream, I didn't know that was Darcy. I just thought that Billy was singing higher. The first time I heard it, and then the first time hearing this, I didn't realize it was James. Because vocally it's produced the same way. But then I, read the liner notes, saw that James wrote it, and then listened like, that doesn't sound like Billy. Okay, that's probably James singing. And that was how I figured it out. But it's a cool cut. I wish, actually, the one thing I would say, I wish there was a little bit more emphasis, or not emphasis, more power from the vocals, because I think James has the capability of doing that.
He didn't at the time. He was still learning.
Oh, so he got better eventually. So,
well, here's the thing. You're in a band with Steven. That's the whole thing, right?
Yep.
And y'all.
This is secretly promoting our band.
This is a long commercial. Like, please buy our music or illegally download it, whatever. That is the entire purpose of the podcast. Is hopefully someone checks out our music after this.
Then I'm terribly sorry for mentioning slavery. Anyway,
I mean, hey, I said that slavery was bad. Nothing I said on record.
I did as well.
Yeah.
No, I will say that
got a clear 2/3 majority on that. At least 2/3 majority on slavery.
Well, that was in poor taste.
I'm also anti-slavery.
He was the background vocalist in the Pumpkins for pretty much their entire run until Melissa, I think. Melissa might have taken over. But anyway, so a lot of his vocal development came from being behind Billy and having to sort of match his tonality and blend well live. So when it came time for James to do a lead vocal, which is what this is, he hadn't quite learned how to not be a background vocalist and be a lead vocalist instead. That's why there's not a lot of power. That's why it's kind of hard to tell if this is James or Billy singing at first, because James essentially has been aping Billy's voice for 2 records and longer before they were, back when they were still doing their bullshit with a drum machine live. So he hadn't quite come into his own as a vocalist, which is a cliche phrase, but that's what that means, that he had taken on a lot of Billy's qualities. He had deliberately learned to underpower his voice so it would blend better, because that's what makes harmonies sound good. It's not 2 lead singers. It's one person doing a lead, or people blending, or maybe all people blending at the same time. So he hadn't quite figured out how to make his voice have that power, how to stand out, how to resonate at a different frequency that makes it actually kick. And so that's why, especially when the Airplane Flies High ones, it's very weak. It has a very soft, weak kind of voice, and you don't hear it sounding deliberate until his solo record. So that's why that's why it's kind of hard to tell. That's why there's not a lot of power, a lot of oomph behind it.
Well, what I'll say is there have been a lot of defenses from Steve and our guests on the other Pumpkins episodes of defending, the Pumpkins bullshit. That is the first time I've actually been like, oh, that's actually a really good point. Like, everything you said was on point and great. Like, it makes me respect you more, respect the band more. It's like, okay, this all makes sense, and I give that a complete pass.
Great.
As opposed to, like, it's kind of good that you can't hear the lyrics, because then you realize how shitty they are. That was one of the defenses on a previous episode.
That's not actually what I said. You're misrepresenting my words on purpose, Greg.
That is an example of you hearing what you want to hear, friend.
I said that as an angsty teenager in the Midwest, angsty lyrics that don't mean anything specific resonated better than things that were specifically about his life in Chicago.
Well, that's only if you're coming at it from the approach that the lyrics and the vocals are the most important part of a song.
That was other Steve, when the episodes he did, he was talking about the voice as just another instrument rather than the primary lead thing. Which
again,
Greg also doesn't agree with.
There's
a bunch of different things. You can be different things, and different bands take different approaches. And if that's the approach they took on that, that's how it goes. It doesn't have to be a standard. It can be shifting. But anyway. So, yeah. Moving on.
Anyway, Blew Away. Catchy pop song. I like it.
My take on Blew Away is, you brought up the Airplane Flies High songs. So, Said Sadly and A Night Like This, is that the other one you're thinking?
The bells.
Oh, the bells. Okay. Because
yeah.
I was thinking of this one. I was comparing it to their cover of A Night Like This, which I feel like tries to do all the same things, but does a better job.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I also think, what was it, Said Sadly was the other one you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 Eha songs are Said Sadly and The Bells, right?
Yeah. And I think this one kicks the crap out of The Bells, but I agree that A Night Like This is, it does what this does better.
We'll get to Said Sadly in that episode, but I do not like steel guitar.
Fair enough.
All right, so next up on the list, we have Soothe. So I
Soothe pretty low, didn't I?
Yeah, you ranked it pretty low. Here's the thing. When Steve said, oh, you're going to hate Pisces, I was really expecting the worst when he gave me this CD, because I did not like Gish. I'm like, oh, man, he is telling me I'm going to hate this. All right, and I, put it in with much trepidation and started with Soothe. I'm like, this is pretty good. And then, it went into the next track, for everyone. I was like, oh, all right, this is better than Gish. All right, sweet. I can breathe easy now. But yeah, this is a cool song. Good melody. I like the simplicity of it. I think it's well produced for how simple it is. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I think it's one of the things that alt bands did do well is when they would do like the solo acoustic with just one vocal thing. Like, alt bands really shined in that sense. So this is the genre doing what the genre does well, really going for that authenticity and sincerity. And this song really succeeds in that for me. And it's catchy.
Yeah. It's catchy. I'm not saying it's not catchy. It's just...
you just don't like authenticity and sincerity.
No, I love... terrible. Absolutely terrible. No. I to me, this is like, again, my familiarity with the Pumpkins kind of hurts this time because I don't just judge the song by itself. I judge the song by how many times I've heard Billy be sincere on just him an acoustic guitar demo with noises in the background, which is like an entire separate category of Pumpkin songs. And if we're going to talk about which ones are good, again, that could be a whole separate thing. So to me, this just falls short. Like, if you're going to talk about some bullshit demo that Billy threw together, it's fine, I guess. But I've heard him do that better. And this just doesn't, this definitely does not deserve to be the opening fucking track. Come on.
I think this is great.
This is a track. This is a track 8.
I wholly disagree. I think this is great. Like, the thing is, I don't need a lot of production for a great song to shine through. It's like, how good is the song? That's the main thing I care about. You can take out layered on 20 guitars. I don't give a shit. How's the songwriting? Like, that's the most important thing. And
one of my favorite Pumpkin song is Stumbling on Melancholy, which is a very, very laid back thing. And in fact, a lot of their B-sides,
like a one-shot demo, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of my favorite songs of theirs ever is, Tonight Tonight. There's a song on the Airplane Flies High, which is on the Tonight Tonight single called Tonight Reprise, or Reprise, or however you say that fucking word, where Billy specifically says, like, yeah, I just gotten back from a Chicago Bulls game where I was shouting my fucking lungs out, and I decided to record this. So it's literally just Billy on an acoustic guitar with a voice that's not even up to Billy Corrigan's standards, singing the same song. And it's great. It rips at your soul. It's got a lot of authenticity. It's very good. And to me, I guess I just can't help but compare this song being produced with the same level of offhandedness or whatever. I compare it to that. I have to do the song on its own merits. And to me, it's just like, it just sounds like Billy running through a couple unique kind of chord changes with some melody that he half thought of and then never developed further. It just sounds like half a Pumpkin song. It doesn't sound like enough. It's it's one of the 3 songs on here that actually sounds like what should have been a B-side.
I don't know. I think this was the appropriate length. I think he didn't, make it longer than it needs to be. Remember, with my taste, I go to a lot of 60s stuff, which, a lot of 2-minute songs back then.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm okay with something.
3 minutes was like a fucking epic.
Right. So for me, this is fine. This works completely for me. I don't have any gripes with it. And the soft vocals, work with this kind of instrumentation and the melody that he's doing. Like, everything is meshing so well for me, where I think this is like a perfect track in my opinion. And so I haven't heard that version of Tonight Tonight. I do like that song a lot, and I do like the Chicago Bulls. So there's like a lot of factors going into that where I'm kind of wanting to hear that now, because
it's not literally singing that. Oh no, the Bulls lost tonight.
He secretly threw a bunch of lyrics from Space Jam.
Right. So like, this sounds.
You're gonna slam in the Space Jam
tonight. The jam starts tonight.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing that song. It sounds great. But, this song in isolation, it's a cool jam. It slams, it jams. It's great.
Okay. Fair enough, man. I'm not going to stand in the way of you liking something. So, hey. Cool.
Ironically, I actually placed this one higher than Greg, but I have, fewer nice things to say about it. I just have always liked this one. So, I've always
it needs to be.
Yeah, it's a good melody, and I think the big contrasts in tone are a huge part of what makes the Smashing Pumpkins work as just an entity, and part of that is these minimalist acoustic songs.
Yeah,
with minimal production.
No, I love it. That's what I'm just saying. Like, this song just doesn't meet my standards of those, but I love the fact that they do those. And yeah, no, I mean, the fact that this is like literally a demo where you can hear shit in the background, that's great. I really appreciate that. It's just that the song itself, it's not the only one I've heard that they do that. And so I have to judge it on the song itself.
She was not the only one on this album, which is the one with the siren.
Isn't it this one?
I think it's this one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sworn it was a different one.
Not a great sign, but...
Or it might have been, maybe it was was it with the siren?
I don't think so. It might have been Blew Away, because that was an acoustic one too. But
maybe. But here's what I'll say. I don't know the Pumpkins as well as you guys. I'm going through this discography in order. And
Right.
this is kind of my first time really hearing something like this from them, and I loved it. This is a band, I'm so grateful that Steve picked a band for us to go through the catalog of that isn't repetitious and boring, which, I was worried about from Gish, but thankfully that was just, okay, whatever, your first album sucks. A lot of bands' first albums suck. That's just how it goes sometimes. I'm so grateful that this band has all these different layers to them because there's so much you can sink your teeth into. And I've actually found that I prefer, the quieter, more melodic Pumpkins as opposed to, a lot of their more rockin' stuff. So like this
Man,
is, this is one of my favorites.
Really going to dig a door. Your door is going to be a great episode for you then.
Nice.
Yeah, that's basically all it is. It's a Billy Corgan solo acoustic record that they then put a whole bunch of top of the line 1998 electronics on.
That sounds great. That's that might be my favorite. We'll see if it can top Melancholy. But
Yeah, let's see. Yeah.
and next on the list, the number 2 song on the album, Landslide.
Oh, really, guys? Really?
Now here's the thing. I mainly judged less on performance and more on songwriting.
This is why
Right.
he insisted that you had to rate the covers too.
He didn't write it. It shouldn't get a high ranking.
I judge when we did the Gene Simmons 1978 solo album. Gene Simmons covered "When You Wish Upon a Star." That is better than any of the songs that he wrote on that album. And the cover that he did was actually a pretty faithful version. And if you just heard it, you wouldn't know it was Gene Simmons. It just sounds like a crooner singing that song. It was a well done version of a great song. So that's why I put it as the number 1 song.
I would give it high ranking because it didn't sound like Gene Simmons, but there's a reason I'm not doing that podcast. So
Well, we'll bring you on for one of those. Because I like the outside perspectives. I like getting people who aren't, huge Kiss fans and get people who might not like the band to give it a shot, see if they find something of merit and worth. So
let me know when you'll do a Love Gun.
Oh, we already did that one.
Ah, damn it. Okay, got it.
yeah, so with Landslide is a great song. It's a classic. And this version is one of the weaker versions that I've heard, admittedly,
Yeah.
but it's still a good song and it's still done well. I think the Fleetwood Mac version is the best version I've heard, and I think the Dixie Chicks did it better than the Pumpkins.
Starla. Starla's the one with the siren. Sorry, I've been Googling that this entire time.
Oh God, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sure I knew that, but I just haven't listened to it in a while.
But I mean, Landslide, it's a classic. It's a great song. If I'm ranking it based on the quality of the songwriting, it's the best written song on the album in terms of just viewing it not as like who wrote it, but like looking at all of these as like songs, individual pieces of art. What is the best song on the album? Landslide is the clear winner for me. It wins in a landslide for me, if you will.
But
Oh God. Well, there's the tagline. No, I mean, yeah, obviously, like what you're saying, the lead single from one of the world's most popular bands was a better song than the B-sides released by a 1990s alt-rock band after their second record?
Yes.
Really?
I am making that bold claim.
how can you
Have
say
at me,
something
internet.
so
Get
brave
behind
yet
that.
true?
That's just science fiction to me, man. No, I agree. Okay, here's the reason I rank mine so low, because remember how I said on the quiet songs, oftentimes Billy decides to use the breathy voice and it's really great.
He doesn't
And then
do
other
that here.
times, He doesn't fucking do that here, and I had to listen to this fucking song all the goddamn time when I
I'm
was a kid.
afraid of changes.
This is the song that I think makes other people hate the Smashing Pumpkins more than any other song.
I have
Maybe
seen
Bullet-
a lot of flack for this song in print.
Maybe Bullet with Butterfly Wings, just because the Despite All My Rage, Rat in a Cage lyric is so nursery rhymey, which is kind of why I like it, but whatever. This is the song where if someone's like, Billy Corgan's great, you like Billy Corgan's voice, huh, Keenan? Really? Let's listen to Landslide. You like this, huh? You like this? Just like, you put me on the spot, man. I don't know what to say. This is terrible. I don't know what this is doing here. But yeah, no, it's like Billy decided that, like, well, I can't be Stevie Nicks, so I'm just going to be bad. And then release it on a fucking record that actual humans will hear, and I don't know why. I love the song. I think it's not even one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs, but it's an incredible song. I get it. What Stevie was going through when she wrote the songs, fucking amazing. This is shit. And
I rank versions of Landslide based on where they put the breaths in the line, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. So, Stevie Nicks, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. Billy does, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. And the Dixie Chicks do that awful, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills.
Which is...
Wait, no, I got them all. I got them all in order, wrong order. Stevie does snow and covered, and Dixie Chicks, yeah, reflection in the snow-covered hills.
In the snow-covered hills.
Just don't like it.
I'm going to vehemently disagree. Dixie Chicks, I'm not big on them overall, but they nailed that song. I'm sorry. You know, get away the preconceived notions of, you know, pop and country. It's a great cover of a classic song. They're fine.
I will never actually knock the Dixie Chicks because I think they're fantastic, and I love a lot of shit-tight pop bands covering stuff and making it sound even cooler. Like, I have a soft spot for a lot of stuff Rascal Flatts do because they're the exact same thing. They're just like this shit-hot band. Their harmonies are great. They know exactly what to do. They're following all the rules, and sometimes it sounds great. It's why I have a disarming affection for Glee and the covers they would do, because as like a theater major, as like a theater person and a choral person, I appreciate that, like, wow, they're doing the songs and they're singing it better than the person who performed the song originally. This is fucking cool. I hate Rascal Flatts for what they did to the for Tom Cochrane, The Life is a Highway, but whatever. To me, Dixie Chicks, their cover of this song is too correct. It's like they took a song where Stevie Nicks was like broken down recording it, and which is, I guess, and then they made it like, here's what you would do if you practiced and rehearsed this for like 9 weeks in school.
And you know what? So I really respect that, and that's why a lot of these a lot of musical theater singers I don't like as much, because they're too perfect. Like, you know, I'm super into Jim Steinman, and he's working with a lot of, you know, actual Broadway folks now, and they're singing too perfectly, where I liked where you had Meatloaf and Bonnie Tyler and even Celine Dion, where they're, you know, their voices aren't perfect, and that's why there's charm to it. Right. And so with this, you know, as much as people are ragging on Billy Corgan, and I will admit I like this, you know, third out of the 3 versions we've talked about, I still think there's authenticity to his delivery here. And so even though there's some pitch issues and it can be a little bit awkward, I still feel emotion from it.
Yes.
And
I was leading towards my one defense of the song is that I think Billy got the mood of the song correct. Yeah. It wasn't an epic, it's a breakdown, and he got that correct.
And, you know, it's never going to compare to the original. That's, you know, and the Dixie Chicks, because they did it so, you know, quote unquote perfect, does make that version enjoyable, but there's still merit to this version. And I could see myself wanting to listen to this particular version because I want to feel the specific emotion from Billy. So if I want to listen to the most authentic version, it's obviously the Fleetwood Mac version. If I want a more polished version of the song, obviously the Dixie Chicks. But there is an edge to this version that I do appreciate, and therefore I find that this version completely has merit.
I can appreciate that, yeah.
One of the things I like about this version is I sort of feel like Billy's voice is more Stevie Nicks than Stevie Nicks's voice. Like if you try to picture what Stevie Nicks singing sounds like, you have a tendency to make it a little more like South Park compares her to a goat.
I was pissed when that happened. I was like, "How dare you, sir?"
But she does have
she is a treasure. How dare you?
It's a national fucking treasure.
But she does have like a distinct and kind of weird and kind of nasally voice, and her version of this song, she sings very clean. When you actually picture what does Stevie Nicks sound like in your head, it's probably more like Billy Corgan.
Well, yes, but the reason is because she gets that kind of ragged intensity, and she uses it for the rock songs, which is what you're supposed to do, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on around the voice. When you break it down to just acoustic, that kind of idea that the voice could be like super ragged wasn't there yet. So it was like, oh, you can hear the voice, you don't want to do the fucked uppy thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Billy's decision to do the fucked uppy thing was not the greatest.
It's for me. I can appreciate a bad vocalist that just goes for it. There's a band that I love called Crash Diet, and their singer is a very much a punk vocalist in a glam setting, and there are a lot of notes he doesn't hit, but he really embraces not hitting the notes and just like almost does it on purpose, and there's a charm to that. And so with this, I admire Billy just saying, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to just go all in, and if it's awkward and clunky, that almost makes it better because this song is about a breakdown. So I give him a lot of credit. I think he nailed it on this one.
So I'm looking at other cover versions of this song that exist. How much you want to bet the Bush cover is just a cover of the Smashing Pumpkins cover, and the Lady Antebellum cover is just a cover of the Dixie Chicks cover?
Oh, I would not bet anything, because I agree.
The Glee cast featuring Gwyneth Paltrow, they probably tried to do it pretty straight, but cleaner.
Oh, I don't know. Glee's weird because they definitely go with like what's the most popular, obvious version. I have never listened to that, but I would bet you that they did a combination of the Pumpkins and the Fleetwood Mac version.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I bet you did. They did that. I'll go listen to it and I'll see if I'm wrong or not. But yeah.
Yeah, I've only watched like 2 episodes of Glee. It really did nothing for me.
I never watched it.
Not the show. The show is fucking terrible. You listen to music. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I did theater in high school, so I'm like, do I want to watch this show? Nah, I'm all right. I'll just, continue living my life instead. I'll watch Cobra Kai instead.
You did not say that when Glee first came on.
No,
you said
but
that 2 days ago.
I sensed, 12 years in the future, I'm going to watch a Karate Kid sequel instead.
This show in 2007 is not good. Allow me to hook up my YouTube Red account from the future.
Right.
My streaming service in 2007.
What was I? So was Glee in 2007 when that came out?
Oh, man, I am pretty off. I think it's 2000. I think it started in 07 and moved into like 07, 08, 10, 11. Yeah. It's around that period.
All right, so I was in high school drama at that same time.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't want to watch that show. Yeah, you don't want to watch shit while you're happening to it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I first became aware of Community when I was in community college. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this. Oh, 2009. So I was clawing my way out of homelessness and poverty at that time. So probably why I missed it.
Hey, fair enough. So I missed a lot of stuff. I missed Angel. Like I was really into Buffy, and then other people started telling me about Angel, and I was just like, well, I need a couch to sleep on, so could you tell me about that instead?
I'm looking for a girl with a job and a car and a house with cable.
I understood that reference. I too own that album. All right.
Are we on number 1?
We're on number 1. Before we get to that, let's go through the list again. Build up suspense for people not doing the math at home.
For people who zoned out a little bit around hour 2.
Like for people who zoned out, much the way that you would do during Starla. All right, so all right, so from least best to best, Spaced, La Dolly Vita, Blue, Girl Named Sandoz, Obscured, Pissant, Hello Kitty Cat, Plume, Starla, Whir, Blew Away, Soothe, Landslide, and as voted by the panel as the best song on Pisces Iscariot, Frail and Bedazzled.
Nice.
I like the editorial noises, Kienan.
You're welcome.
So I appreciate that the Smashing Pumpkins B-Sides album is our longest podcast episode to date.
It's true. We spent a lot of time talking about this. It's a long album. It's 14 tracks.
But I'm still impressed. No, this is great. We talked more about this than like Siamese Dream. Take that in. This encouraged more discussion than Siamese Dream. So that is That is impressive.
It's just like Siamese Dream is like a bunch of people in a room being like, how about this song? It's great, right? Yep, sure is. Okay, moving on.
That was the episode. So you just spoiled it. Now they're not going to go back and listen to it.
Oh, god damn it, those call forwards. I hate them. Sorry.
But this song, I will say, cool, badass rock tune. I ranked it the lowest of the panel, but I still like it quite a bit. I think it's the second best rocker on the album. I like the chord choices. I really like the bit where it's just vocals and kick drum. I thought that there's a lot of really cool arrangement choices in it. I think sequencing it's very good. Like the 1-2 punch, like start with Soothe and go into this. I thought it was a really clever sequencing choice.
Yeah, this one really benefits from being right after Soothe.
Absolutely.
But it's a great tune. You know, I don't like it as much as a bunch of other songs on the album, but this is the top half of the album, and I'm not upset with it being first place. Like, it's not like, this outcome, I fully disagree. I can see why this happened. So I'm cool with it.
I just, man, this song is the most pumpkin song on the record. This song gives me what I want. Like, I ordered steak and they gave me steak. You know, like, you know what you're getting with this fucking song, even with the lyrical, with the switch to the solo vocal thing, which they do a couple more times in the discography, to their detriment in Everlasting Gaze, in my opinion. But to me, this also has like those classic kind of Billy lyrics where you're like, it's a little geeky, but just geeky enough to be cool. Like, stole my smile from the Cheshire Cat. Like, that's just like, I could cringe at that, but I kind of like it. That's kind of neat.
No, that's
like two of us.
That's awesome. Awesome
yeah,
shit.
Like I just, man, this one. God, this one really needs the 50 fucking guitars treatment, in my opinion.
I don't think it needs it. I'm fine with it the way it is. For me, it's hard to put my finger on it, but this one really has a fun, jangly kind of feel to it, where it doesn't sound like this band, but there's like something just on a visceral level that just reminds me of like the Byrds or something. And I know it doesn't make any sense, but just something about it is awakening the feelings of like the Byrds and Enough's Enough and those bands just within my soul. But I like it better. Like, this is just, it's a cool cut, and it's just, there's magic in this cut, I would say. This is one where the magic is there, and I dig it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. To me, this is, like I said, this is what I come to expect. It's just like lyrics that are borderline cringy, but really flowery and cool instead. Great fuzz riff. Just this is, when I think of the Smashing Pumpkins, this is the kind of stuff that I think about, especially with the energy. And there's no good reason this shouldn't have been on a non B-sides record. And also, this was one of the songs that was recorded in Marietta.
Yeah. I didn't know they didn't record in there.
Yeah, they actually recorded a lot of Siamese Dream at Trident Studios in Marietta, Georgia, which is where I am. I forgot to clarify that. I live in Marietta, Georgia. So this was actually recorded here, basically.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other takes, I guess?
Yeah, Steve, do you have any comments on it?
I wrote a joke about how I like to think that when they say bedazzled, they mean covered in plastic baubles, but there wasn't really an organic place to put it.
All right, so this is why we need drops, Steve. Like, I
know, just hit an automatic joke button to interrupt people with.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I am supposed to be the non-Smashing Pumpkins fan on this group. I've talked way more than Steve has about this album. Like, Steve has been quiet this entire time, and I'm engaging into this discussion of music. Steve's like, yeah, that's an okay song.
Well, it's because much of this conversation is conversations that we've already had. Like, you and Keenan are having the same fights that you and I have been having for weeks. I'm like, man, I don't want to have this fight again. Keenan, you got this. You're saying exactly what I was going to say anyway.
Awesome. I am Steve now.
Right?
No, I just, that's pretty much, this is, let's face it, Pisces Iscariot is, if it's your favorite Pumpkins album, you're weird, even among the Pumpkins fan base. I mean, I'm not saying it should be low on the list. Like, obviously, Gish is worse. If we're talking like B-side collections alone, Judas O and all the other bullshit ones, God, those are fucking terrible. But this one is like, it's B-sides and it's raw Pumpkins back when they were still an exciting band, a band that had potential. You didn't know what to expect from them yet, which is why you get things like Soothe and Frail and Bedazzled and Hello Kitty Cat, and then switches around to shit like Whir and Blew Away, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? And this was before Melancholy, which like cemented the band as, yes, we can do fucking anything, whatever. So this was like their first introduction to being incredibly exploratory, and like the opposite of Gish. Like, instead of it being monolithic, this is just like, it's so God, I'm trying to think of a good word,
Eclectic?
but it's just sporadic. Eclectic, sure, that works too. I was just thinking, I was thinking breadth more than like differentiation, but sure, that'll work. Its strength is as a platter. You know, it's like a party platter. Like, what can they do? Like, the sequencing is terrible. As a record, it totally fails. Like, what the fuck is Spaced on here at all, much less a closer? What the hell? Is Soothe doing as an opener? And sure, you can say, like, they were doing something different, but it doesn't work. So it was a failure anyway. Sure, artistic exploration.
The way that you defend the lyrics, I would defend Soothe as an opener. Like,
fair enough. And I wouldn't argue with it, because you're probably right. I just don't like it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it or I had any choice in it. I'm just saying I don't think it works.
Well, that is our show. That is the longest episode we've done. But you know what? I like the CD. This is another thumbs up from me. So I'm enjoying going through the Pumpkins catalog. I don't like it better than Siamese Dream, and I haven't listened to Melancholy in a while, but I remember liking it more. So I'll see how this ranks in the overall catalog, but I was really happy we went and did it, and I enjoyed it a lot as a listen. I want to thank our excellent guest, Keenan. Where can we find you and your awesome band on the internet or in person?
You can just do a search for Sarah, that was Sarah with an H, and the safe word, either ampersand or letters, on Spotify. I believe all our social media handles are Sarah and the safe word. We didn't have to do Sarah and the safe word band or anything. It's a pretty weird name. So, and in person, I am in Marietta, Georgia, and you will often find me going to and from rehearsals or work.
Well, there we go. Internet, you know where to find him.
Did we just dox our guest?
We are Lipstick.
Currently are no.
We are Lipstick. You can find us in Nashville, Tennessee. We are a glam rock band. Please buy our music. We sound nothing like the Pumpkins. You know, there's lots of hooks. No, the Pumpkins are great. But we're Lipstick. Find us at lipstickgeneration.com. All the social media links and stuff are there. Please give us your rankings in the comments below. Tell us how wrong we are and how... what's that? Starla. Tell me why Starla is the best song on the album, and I was terrible for putting it last place. Please just rage at me, internet. Thank all of you so much. Have a good one. Peace.
Peace.